Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse episode 336. I am Peter and joining me as always is Matt.
Hey, Bangarang.
And Connor's not here. We thought he might be. It was actually very mixed signals. I got very confused because he said, this was the sentence he said to me. Yes, this was yesterday. This is important. He said, I'm working today and tomorrow, but I'm off Friday to Tuesday. And I went, oh, you're off Friday. We're recording Friday. Do you want to buy the car? He's like, no, I said I was working tomorrow. But you said you're off Friday. Friday's tomorrow. So, so he's at work basically. So that's the short version. But he said it in the most confusing mixed signally way that he possibly could have.
I don't know if he played organized sports, but there's a good chance he has a little bit of CTE.
Well, it's when that dog flinched towards him and he went flying to the ground. He died. He took a dive as if he was in a football game, except he was just, I don't know, squaring up against the dog.
Yeah, he was selling like HBK to Hulk Hogan.
But with no reason or context or backstory. He just
did it because it's Connor.
Baffling. So yes, welcome. DC Comics Podcast, we get together, we talk about the DC Comics we read this week, and they didn't give us a easy week for Christmas. Of course they didn't. We have Dark Crisis issue 7, we have Nightwing issue 99, The Flash 789, Batman vs. Robin issue 4, Batman Superman World's Finest issue 10, Stargirl The Lost Children issue 2, and GCPD The Blue Wall issue 3. Oh, I never actually checked with Matt. Did you read anything else that I didn't put in that list?
No, just my main 7.
Oh, in Deceased. I forgot to mention Deceased.
Yes, in Deceased.
Yeah.
Doesn't say, yeah. So yeah, Nightwing, Flash, Dark Crisis, World's Finest, Batman v Robin, Deceased, and Stargirl. So,
Aye,
yeah.
that sounds about right. So yes. So we're recording this on the 23rd, a day earlier than normal. I am going to just put this out for everyone on Christmas Eve, just so it's out for the world and people can enjoy it over the Christmas break. Because normally we have to usually wait a little bit longer for the episode that falls on Christmas, but we're getting in just before, so you're getting it on time, if not even a little bit earlier.
Yes.
So congratulations. And also, if you're in the East Coast of America or anywhere in Canada, hopefully this will keep you company whilst you're freezing your balls off in a giant storm. I saw a map of Canada, like all the regions that have got warnings, and like most of the map is red. There's a couple of yellow regions, most of it's red.
Yeah, it's funny because here in the States, right, that's all like north, right? Like, but their entire country is situated on that north to us. So like, yeah, it's oof.
Aye.
No, thank you.
You're in Nevada. You don't know what a real storm is.
No, I mean it snowed here once or twice in memory, and no, thank you.
I mean, a little bit of snow is not a storm.
To us, it is. It shut down a whole city.
To you it is, but it's...
Yeah, well, we have one snowplow for the whole city, so it shut down the city. It was great though. I didn't have to go to work. I got to sleep in. I got to play in the snow for a little bit.
It's like people in California freak out when there's just a little bit of rain, but if we classed every time it rained as a storm, then the UK would just be shut down like every other week.
Yeah, my thing here too, it's like either people drive too slow in the rain because like, oh no, there's water coming out of the sky, or they drive like it is giving them the speed force. Like they're not gonna let the rain stop them. Like there's less friction now, and it drives me insane because there's no middle ground. I'm just like, just drive normal. So. Yeah, but in California, you run the risk of floods because it's so dry, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a little scary. Like I know where Tim used to live. I remember news reports coming out, and I'd always check on him. He was always fine. So, which he's very salty about the Die Hard discussion this year. So do not.
What do you mean this year? It's been a thing for a few years at this point.
But he's finally reached his break point.
Okay.
On the whole discourse, and like it just doesn't matter. So it's very funny to see Tim take that type of stance because he's always so happy-go-lucky.
Well, no, Tim beyond that is quite happy to Tim, by the way, is the co-host of Screams After Midnight, the horror movie podcast that we have on Male Fuzz Movies. Go check it out on YouTube or your podcast feed near you. But yeah, Tim tends to quite like winding people up by making them sit through conversations he doesn't care about. So it's actually quite funny and amusing to see Tim get wound up by other people debating about Die Hard being a Christmas movie. Now, for the record, where do I stand on this? Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Shut up. Secondly, the people who say it's not a Christmas movie are the ones who started the problem, because no one cared before. People who like Die Hard at Christmas watched it at Christmas, but the gatekeeping from the people who think it's not a Christmas movie, you can have that at your top 10 Christmas movies. It's not. Piss off! I can put it in whatever top 10 Christmas list I want.
Yeah, here's another thing. If you don't think it's a Christmas movie, then watch it the other parts of the year. Talk about it then. If you do think it's a Christmas movie, cool. Let's watch it around the same time and let's talk about it. Other than that, I don't care. Like, it's hack at this point, and like, you're not funny or clever, and I'm tired of it just weaseling its way in. You know, someone tried to tell me Gremlins isn't a Christmas movie, despite the whole point. Is Gizmo's a literal Christmas present? And I'm just like, guys, what are we doing? Like, there's a whole not even a subplot. There's a whole story in there about Santa and Phoebe Cates, and
it's such a Christmas. That's not even.
It is
absurd.
Yeah. So
next people will try to tell me Silent Night, Deadly Night's not a Christmas movie.
Or Christmas Bloody Christmas isn't a Christmas movie.
Yeah, I know you watched that. It's
literally in the title.
Yeah.
Well, I watched that because of you. So.
I know you did.
Yeah.
And once again, it's been proven that when I recommend something to Matt, he should listen, because it always works out.
Not always.
It always works out. No.
Under the Skin did not.
I did not recommend that. I knew you would hate that, though. I said, I'm making you watch this. I know you'll hate it, but I'm making you watch it anyway. That's different from a recommendation.
True. That's what I do with La La Land with you. Like, I knew you were going to hate this, but guess what? We're watching it.
Big difference.
That's true.
Big difference. So just go watch go watch Terrifier 1 and 2. That's the next recommendation.
I'm okay for right now. I don't think I'm ready. You know, like there's ski runs. Like, I've never been skiing, but there's like the Black Diamond. I feel like Terrifier 2 is a Black Diamond, and I'm on the moderate. Like, I'm okay. Like,
I think you've made it up in your head to be this thing, but there's a sense of humor to it. There's a.
Oh, I'm sure, but my brother watched it and gave me a rundown on some of the worst things, and it's probably worse in my head than it is on the screen. But like the birthing scene, I don't need that right now. It's Christmas.
Matt, when you're eating Christmas dinner and you've got some mashed potatoes sitting there, just think of the mashed potato scene in Terrifier 2. That's what you want to be thinking about.
So, but no, I'll be okay. I was looking for a Santa hat for I have a Michael Myers figure downstairs, and I cannot find a little tiny Santa hat to put on him. So I thought it'd be hilarious. So, that's my vibe. I'm more over there. So, but yeah, no. What do you think about it? Just don't go recommending Avatar 2, because I ain't got 6 hours to dedicate to that. So.
Avatar 2 is a delightful 3 hours and 10 minutes. Okay.
Yes.
Delightful.
Dude, by the time I sit down, sit through the trailers, it's gonna be 4 hours.
I had a great time on the Ace or Sci-Fi Movie Podcast, sitting down with Tara and talking about it. I think it was a great conversation, because there's a lot of character themes to discuss, and there's a lot going on in there.
Yep.
And I just and it actually you can see the money on the screen. It actually looks expensive, unlike every other big blockbuster the last 5 years.
The owner of my comic shop went and saw it, and he said it's very beautiful to look at, but he said I didn't go for the story. He went to go look at pretty framing.
I honestly think, particularly with this one, that anyone, and a lot of people are saying the story's simple, and the story on the surface is very simple.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of depth to the characters once you stop and think about what it's doing with all of them, that I think actually enhanced the film for me. When I talked about it, I actually ended up liking it more than when I first left the theater.
That's good. I'm gonna make an effort, maybe, because that is a movie I'd see on the big screen, but we'll see.
If nothing else, after 5 years of mediocre Marvel visual effects, you will be blown away with how this movie looks, because
you're not wrong.
You'll come out of this going that every single scene in Aquaman looked like shit. This is how water movies are supposed to look.
You could pull a a Marvel one there, not DC there, Chief.
Okay, fine. I've not even seen Wakanda Forever, but I assume the water stuff in that doesn't look very good.
I mean, probably not as a James Cameron, because you know how James Cameron goes. Like the fact that man went into one of the editions of Titanic and changed the stars after people commented that's not where the stars would be, on that time. The attention to detail, I'm sure.
Do you know what? That's the sort of thing where, like, I'm not necessarily for directors going back and changing things, but that's the sort of thing that I am never going to notice.
Yeah.
I'm not going to notice it the first time. I'm not going to notice it after he changes it.
Neil deGrasse Tyson noticed it because, again, that's his field, and said, oh, in April of that year, the stars would not have been there. So James Cameron found a star chart and went and, changed it. And, I respect that. That's not George Lucas going and changing things willy-nilly just because, that's actual, like, okay. Well, constructive criticism.
That's the beauty of setting these movies on this Pandora in a different part of space, is that Neil deGrasse Tyson can't say shit about almost any of it.
Oh, bro, he wants to, though. he loves to ruin movies, which I used to think he was a really good science communicator, and he still might be. Like, he breaks down physics in a way that I can understand. I don't need his pop culture takes. That's just like, sir, I'm fully willing to believe that Santa Claus exists because of magic. I don't need you breaking down that, reindeers can't fly. It's like, have some fun.
That's the example you went with.
Oh, he had a full thing saying that there's no way reindeer could pull a sleigh. Well, because how does it work? And through the sky, and it's like, bud, it's magic. Just stop.
They're already flying, and you're debating the strength of pulling the sleigh.
Yeah. It's the Grant Morrison when they talked about Little Mermaid. Like, you don't need to explain why the crab talks. It's a kids movie. Kids will just go, "Oh, cool! Look, the crab's talking." So,
it's a ongoing struggle. I concur.
Yep.
Yeah. I know you have as well, but I'm going to jump in here first because I have watched some DC things this week.
Hey.
I started watching Peacemaker.
I got to finish that.
Yeah, well, I watched the first 3 episodes. I watched because it was basically the reason why I watched it is because like I had a vote in Patreon to do a pilot from earlier this year that I never got to, and Peacemaker was one, and I ended up this is kind of an easy watch. I've watched 3 episodes of it so far. It's pretty funny. It's entertaining.
Yeah. Yeah, Cena's better than he has any right to be, right? Like, he handles that character super, super well.
Yeah, good supporting cast. It's got a nice upbeat energy to it. And
have you met Robert Patrick yet?
Yeah, he's in the first episode.
Okay, I can't remember. I watched it so long ago.
Yeah.
I think I'm up to episode. How many episodes are there? Is there 6?
There's 8.
There's 8. Okay, so I'm about at 5. I need to. I'll get there and finish. But,
yeah, I watched the first.
That's on the list.
Yeah, I watched the first 3. And it's probably safe for a while because season 2 is coming, but with HBO Max pulling things left and right, they're pulling most of the animated stuff in January, so don't count your chickens. But you want something technically a bit more relevant, although it's probably instantly irrelevant for many reasons. But but Black Adam you watched.
Yeah, I finally got around to watching Black Adam.
Finally.
And
no one would need to get to
this is a movie that had I seen in the theater, I probably would have liked a lot more. Sitting at home, it's a little bit different. I love The Rock. Like, I went and watched Jungle Cruise and really loved it because The Rock was in it. No, I would have seen it anyways. Jungle Cruise is one of my favorite Disney rides. Anyway, he's kind of charisma free in this, which is so weird that The Rock was pushing like being Black Adam for the longest time.
Yeah, that doesn't really fit his personality, Black Adam.
No, he's very solemn and like he's Black Adam fine, like as a physical presence, but just like the Black Adam that's, kind of cocky. That's what I kind of wanted to see.
He's definitely I think The Rock as a person has proven himself as most carny this year. Between his like thin skin defending Black Adam, putting out weird statements. He put out a statement this week sort of confirming that Black Adam wasn't in like James Gunn and co.'s like plans for the next phase of the DCU.
Right.
And any statement that he put out, like there was a lot of fluff, there was a lot of I'm good friends, I hope to collaborate with him in the future, blah blah. And at the end, he just casually mentioned like his alcohol that he sells, as if like he put in a little plug for his product, and I'm like, you are such a carny.
Yeah, I mean, literally both sides of his family are from the business, right?
Yeah,
like, it's in his blood. He can't help it.
You're a millionaire. Stop. You don't need to, you don't need to like shill this much.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, he's fine in it. He's more of a physical presence, but even though it came out in 2022, it felt very dated. It definitely felt like a superhero movie from 10 years ago.
I heard specifically it felt like a superhero movie from like 2005. That's what I heard.
Or even, like it felt very weirdly Phase 1 Marvel, where, they're just trying things, and it's cool to see Hawkman in a movie, and he behaves like Hawkman normally would. Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate, I hate to break it to Connor if he's listening, kind of weird just because his presence is not as I've read Dr. Fate in the comics. And they try to do this weird thing with the helmet where that's such a oddly specific visual, but when it's translated to live action, looking at it straight on, it doesn't look like the helmet. It was very weird. So they try to give it this glow effect to make it, stand out, and it was just really weird. Cyclone being in the movie, Maxine Hunkel, almost like, okay, weird pull for a character considering, the Justice Society as it is, but she was fine. And then Atom Smasher, not even steal the movie from me. I'm a big Atom Smasher fan. He's just kind of there for the JSA, but yeah, it feels like a Phase 1 movie where The Rock shows up, and they try to get into the history of Kahndaq, and, which I had always thought was tied to ancient Egypt, but they did this Bronze Age thing that Kahndaq, the empire existed before Egypt. And knowing that Dr. Fate and Hawkman and Black Adam all have ties to ancient Egypt, they didn't touch on that whatsoever, which is so weird because it's literally right there. If you want to play with the Hawkman reincarnation story and all this other stuff, and they just choose not to. But yeah, he's weirdly charisma free. It almost ties in to some James Gunn stuff. I don't want to spoil anything. Certain characters show up throughout, so but yeah, it's fine. It's probably below James Gunn's Suicide Squad, but above something like Aquaman or Birds of Prey. So, again, that's kind of what the DC Universe movies have been. The ones that aren't, directed by a certain person I don't want to name because it's like Beetlejuice or like a demon. If you say the name, they're aware of you. So, but yeah.
You have not filled me with a single iota of temptation to watch it. I
don't think you'll like it. I think you'd be bored. I got bored a little bit. Like I'm watching it going like, okay, yeah, I know where this is going. They do some cool stuff. Again, I'm trying to go around spoilers. Some certain comic book stuff that they play with that I do like, just being a fan of the Shazam realm. They play with things through there, but like it's just weird that we didn't get any Black Adam and Shazam crossover. Like no mention of Philadelphia or any of that stuff, just because
apparently The Rock turned in a cameo in Shazam 2, and the quote that is going around from the rumors is his like email or whatever to Warner Brothers or whoever he sent this to. Is that he only plays in the big leagues. And when I'm like, your character is the villain for this character. That's literally what his.
Yeah, or at least an anti-hero side, right? Like, because that's what they're playing on here.
Sure,
like, but Black Adam, but like
I know Black Adam is grown beyond that, like in the comics and all that, but it doesn't change the fact that fundamentally he is a supporting character to Captain Marvel, to Shazam. Right?
Yeah, that's a bad move on his part.
Yeah, so
I like that. I'm gonna rewatch that Shazam movie soon. Because I did enjoy it in theaters. I haven't watched it since. And I'm gonna go see 2 because it looks, the trailers look good enough. They look fun, but yeah, that's an odd move on his part. And I know the stuff that's come out since is like, oh, I was supposed to be the center point of this new thing going forward.
Well,
And
the
it's like,
hierarchy of power of the DC universe is about to change.
and I don't understand how Black Adam would be that, because Black Adam's never been that. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, yeah, you're The Rock. I get it, Dwayne. You sell
Honestly,
tickets,
it's funny actually that he's a wrestler, because it really does feel like a wrestler trying to make everything about him and putting, even though his character's not supposed to be the center of the universe, he was trying to make Black Adam the center of this new movie universe. And it didn't matter how much it changed anything from the source material or how much it like affected who should be focused on more. Yeah, it was kind of like when you watch the X-Men movies, and it's like Cyclops is supposed to be like the straight leader. Yeah, but in the movies he's almost like a side character, and he's just kind of discarded.
Yeah, he has no like gravitas to him. He's just there. Yeah.
So you know that's the problem that a lot of movies have faced with adapting comics in the past.
Yeah,
some characters who are supposed to feel like the prominent ones are more important end up just becoming these bland side characters to other characters that are more interesting. But part of the reason why a character like Wolverine in the comics is so exciting is because he's this, he's this not wacky, but he's this he's this more colorful character who plays off the straight main characters.
Right. Well, and that's why his and Cyclops relationship works so well, because they are that. It's the straight man and the colorful man type dynamic, and I think Whedon nailed that in the script to the first X-Men movie in certain parts.
I think it's very Batman and Superman actually when I think about it. Is that you focus a lot of things end up just focusing more on Batman and Superman because they don't know how to write Superman well. So
true. But yeah. So and there is a cameo in Black Adam. Again, I don't want to spoil or anything that I would have enjoyed on the big screen had it not been spoiled back in October.
The second the midnight showing ended.
And so it's good. But I will give Black Adam credit in that, how Aquaman felt like it was just overstuffed? Like, we didn't need Black Manta and Ocean Master and The Trench. And it was almost like two movies in one. Black Adam did a very good job at balancing Black Adam and the Justice Society and the villain all working to, throughout. And it didn't feel like a direct adaptation of any story. Like, it touched on a lot of Black Adam stuff that I know, like his origin and the whole World War III kind of story about the siege of Kahndaq and that, and they touch on those elements there, but it's its own story, which I always appreciate when comic movies do that, when they're not just trying to adapt, this famous story, because then you get pigeonholed into things. So, but yeah, I wouldn't recommend it to Pete, but if you have some time, and you're off this week because of the holidays, and you love, comics, give it a watch. Let me know what you think. But yeah, definitely think Pete would be bored because he's already out on kind of modern superhero stuff. So
maybe his background noise at some point. But like I eventually watched Doctor Strange 2 and Thor: Love and Thunder a couple of months ago, and like my feeling since I watched them is that I didn't need to. Like I could have just not. It would have been fine.
So there's not even a little part of Multiverse of Madness that you liked? You didn't like any of the Raimi Evil Dead-y moments?
Not really, because it's just not on its own. Doesn't it needs to be in an overall package that works and I care about. And
that might be. I mean, you're never big on Doctor Strange, anyways.
No.
But they're the last act of that movie. I thoroughly enjoy. The kind of build-up's just it's whatever.
So at this point, like I don't know if I'll ever see Black Panther 2 unless again it's just kind of put on when I'm there by someone else. I don't know if I'm going to see whatever's coming out next. I don't know. I think Ant-Man 3. Yeah, Ant-Man 3's next. Yeah. I ain't seen that in theaters.
Yeah. No, I'll go. But I like Ant-Man.
But I went to the movies a couple times this past week, and I will continue to go and see movies that aren't superhero movies.
Yes.
Not because I'm making some sort of some sort of statement. But no, I'm going to go. I like going to movies to see things, but I'm just going to see movies that I actually want to support and see more of.
Yeah, I went and saw The Fabelmans, and it was so nice not to, just to kind of watch a quiet movie, although that was kind of drowned out by the two showings of Avatar that I was wedged between, because that movie gets loud, and Fabelmans is very quiet in parts. So, but it was nice, going, and also there wasn't a lot of people there. The last couple superhero movies that I've been to, people just, they draw more people, and people have forgotten how to act in a theater properly. So, what'd you go see? Besides Avatar.
I see Violent Night.
Okay. Oh. I was gonna say I didn't realize you went and saw it because yes.
I was on a whim. I just felt like going to the movies. I was always playing. Oh, Violent Night. I'll always see that. That was.
Yes, sir. That's one of my favorite movies of the year so far.
Of course it is.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Once you find out about Santa, is there any doubt that it was going to be my favorite movie? Yeah. So.
Oh dear.
Yeah. That sledgehammer scene in the stables, still one of my favorite moments this year. So, a lot of fun.
It's not a great movie. I liked it. It's got some pacing issues in the middle, but generally speaking, it sticks to its premise, and it's even got a little bit of a demented Home Alone kind of callback in it as well, which I appreciate.
I was not ready for that. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, so I'm not going to spoil it, but
No. But yeah, David Harbour as Santa, you already had me, and the fact that they touch on Home Alone and Die Hard, and even Santa Claus mythos in there, very, very much for me, and I had a really good time at the theater. So, it's good that you're going back to the movies there, Pete.
I just hadn't been anything out in a while that I wanted to see. That's basically it. So.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Nothing really. I wanted to go see Glass Onion, but now it's already on Netflix. So those are my plans.
There was only I might have done so, but it was only out for like a week and then it was gone. Yeah. It was weird.
It was here. There was a couple showings last weekend, but I couldn't get Ash to. She didn't really want to go to the movies, and I don't blame her. Like it's this time of year is kind of crazy. And she's like, it's gonna be on Netflix soon, anyways. Just wait. I was like, all right. I mean, really. I like to go to the movie theater because then I'm not tempted by my phone. Because when I'm at home and comfortable, it's just like, oh, well, who's that? What other movie have they been in? When I'm at the theater, I'm not tempted to do that because of, expectations. But when I'm sitting on my couch, even if I try to have self-discipline, I always end up going to IMDb and then I'm like, oh, what are some fun facts about the making of this? Where was this filmed? And, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, there's always time for a Comixology Top 10.
My Christmas wish would be granted.
That doesn't matter that we spent 20 minutes talking about.
I know. I thought it was like, Pete's not gonna remember.
Of course, I'm going to remember.
Of course,
not a single risk at all. So yes, we're looking at top 10 comics as per the ranking on Comixology right now for the sales. They split them by date, so we'll look at Tuesday, which is all the DC books, and then we'll look at the rest of the industry on Wednesday, on the second list. So Matt, any guesses as to what the top selling DC book is as of right now on Comixology?
I'm going to say Dark Crisis 7.
You would be correct. Dark Crisis 7 is number 1. And then number 2, interestingly, is Batman vs. Robin issue 4.
I was going to guess. So, we'll talk about it when we get there. I did not realize there was going to be an issue 5. I thought this was a 4-part. The fact that this was a little bit bigger. No,
I knew it was going to be an issue.
Finale.
I remembered the solicit existing for 5 and maybe even 6 as well. Yeah. So if anything, the only surprise I had was that it said it was because it's not back till February. It's taking a month off. Whilst some of this Lazarus Planet stuff plays out.
So,
which fair enough.
I felt the extra size in this one, and I was like, okay, it's the last issue. And then I got to the back. It says, to be continued in February. I was like, oh man, okay.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I think it's interesting. It's maybe a twofer in that Mark Waid's got some value for selling, but also people knew this was the issue that was going to lead into this little mini event that's coming in January. So I guess those two things combined is what's put it at number 2 over number 3, which is Nightwing issue 99, which has been selling very well.
Yes.
So that's there. And then number 4 is back to Mark Waid with World's Finest. So very straightforward top 4 for Tuesday. And then number 5 is Deceased, War of the Undead Gods. So back to Tom Taylor. That's funny, actually. It's Mark Waid, Tom Taylor, Mark Waid, Tom Taylor. That's amusing. And then number 6 is Stargirl, which is Jeff Johns. So big names here. Number 7 is DC versus Vampires All Out War, which we dropped off the tie-in miniseries because it wasn't. I didn't like the first issue, but that's there. Number 8 is The Flash, issue 789.
Okay.
Number 9 is actually an un-DC book. Apparently on Tuesday, The Legend of Korra had a book come out. $8. So I don't know if it's technically a trade or just a bigger issue.
Who's the publisher on that one?
That's Dark Horse.
Dark Horse. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. On a Tuesday, say it must have been like what do they call the oversized ones? They're not quite a trade,
Yeah.
but they're like 4 issues put together. There's a name for it.
Yeah. It's a collection of stories from the heartwarming to the hilarious, blah 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 blah. Yeah, it's called Legend of Korra: Patterns in Time. So it's a little collection book. So that was number 9, and number 10 was Batman Urban Legends. So that's cool. Notably, the Catwoman Lonely City collection came out this week. That's number 14 there. Yeah. The Rogues collection also came out, which is down at number, what's that? 17.
Yeah.
So so some noteworthy trades.
If you're waiting for Rogues, go and read that one now. Might have to pick up Lonely City now that it's collected.
Yeah, I mean, I assume these are hardcovers and physical for this first release, just because I think the Black Label stuff usually is, but obviously we're looking at the digital here, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I would recommend those absolutely. I guess yeah, it's normal for some trades to come out and choose because there's at least from Dark Horse, because there's a couple of Hellboy collections out as well. So very cool. All right, so we'll look at Wednesday's books then. So, any guess as to what number 1 from the rest of the industry was on Wednesday?
There's an X book, but it's also an annual, so I don't know. But that's my best guess. So that's what I'm gonna say is the X-Men annual one.
It is the X-Men annual. So there you go. You got what looks like Phoenix, Jean Grey, and Cyclops side by side, blasting their powers full force. You know, images like that make me want to get into X-Men again, but like. It's always a mess to get into.
It is, and I miss it because, I tried with the House of X and Powers of X way back, a couple of years ago now. But yeah, seeing that image right there, because I'm like, where did Phoenix go? How does Phoenix fit in with the new Krakoa version of the X-Men and all this stuff?
Yeah, it's kind of wild that that's been like 2 years or 3 years already since House and Power, but whatever.
Actually, that is Firestar, not Phoenix. I just clicked on it.
Oh, is it?
So
I don't know. I never clicked on it. It looked like Phoenix to me from the.
Me too, and that's what I thought. And then I read the blurb on there, and it says the newest X-Men burns up the spotlight.
Oh, fair enough.
So it's Firestar, which I like when they throw her in because I think she was created for Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. So it's cool when they throw her in with the X-Men.
And then we got Sabretooth and the Exiles, issue 2.
Very interested in that book. I like the Exiles. But I don't think they're doing multiversity or multiverse shenanigans. I think this is they're actually exiled from Krakoa. So.
And then we got number 3 is Mary Jane and Black Cat, and then, I don't know if this is the book that did this, but I did see some news this week that Mary Jane just got powers or something. Which just I don't know.
Okay.
It's one of those things where I'm just I like. Not that you can't give like a love interest character powers, because obviously Linda's got them right now in Flash, and we've been fine with that. But if they suddenly gave Lois Lane powers, I would not like it. I think it was weird.
They've done it for short periods of time in like certain things, but it's never been anything that sticks. Thankfully, Oh,
and I would never want it to stick because it feels like you're just muddying the waters where So yeah, number 4 is Avengers Forever issue 12. Number 5 is Wolverine issue 28. Still Percy on that. Then we got Strange issue 9 at number 6. Number 7, Something is Killing the Children. Sounds cool. And we're getting away from Marvel a little bit here because number 8 is Junkyard Joe, which is an Image book. That's actually Jeff Johns' book with Gary Frank. Yeah. And then,
did not realize this.
And then number 9 is Berserker, issue 11.
That's the Keanu book, right? That's
written by Keanu Reeves, yes.
Yeah.
And then number 10 is Vanish, issue 4, which is an Image book. That's a Donny Cates book. So that's actually quite a healthy. Like, that's 4 out of the 6 were non-Marvel. That's good going for the rest of the industry. And there's other Marvel books. There's a Miss Marvel issue, Gold Goblin, whatever the hell that is. And then you get any Alien issues out. There's a Power Rangers issue out from Boom. So it's a mix of things this week.
That Alien cover looks really cool.
It is. Yeah, it's kind of it's funny because like I ended up not reading that first book that Johnson did because I hated the artist, but it's a different artist on this book, but it's a sequel to the first series, so
Right.
I'm so conflicted if I want to, go and read it all.
Yeah.
Because I love Alien as a property.
Concept.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh well.
Yeah, that cover. I just clicked on the big version, and it's probably because there's some dinosaur-esque thing to the queen here. That is the queen, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the queen. That's the Alien Queen.
So yeah. But yeah, no, that's a really cool cover.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. There's the Comixology top 10 for the week. Everyone's favorite segment.
Except for mine.
I know Connor. Somewhere he's just taking a shot of something in celebration because he loves the Comixology top 10 so much.
He does.
Yeah, absolutely. So very good. But yeah, I guess we can get into the comics then. Usually I do Comixology top 10, then we'll amble. I said preamble, but that's not the word I was going for.
You did, yeah. I know what you're saying, but it's escaping me. We'll tangent off into things.
I guess ramble. I guess I just wanted to say ramble. Yeah. And I don't know. For some reason, I felt the need to try and sauce it up a bit. But anyway, usually it's Comixology top 10, then the rambling, and then the books. But for whatever reason, we swapped that around this week. It's Christmas. We're feeling weird. I don't know. But we'll get into the comics. We got some big stuff to talk about. So starting off with Dark Crisis issue 7, Joshua Williamson writing, and there was 4 artists, so I didn't write them down, but I'll tell you what they are in a minute. It's a slightly oversized issue, of course, so that's part of the reason. But obviously, they just need to get it out on time for everything coming after. So there is multiple artists, and we'll deal with that in a little second. So yeah, there's big things to talk about here and how they wrap up the story. There's some good ideas in here that I do quite like, but there's also some things in here that I think are quite underwhelming as a ending of an event. And some of these were kind of introduced last issue, where it started to feel a bit murky about what the real, what the real evil in this event was. Is it the Great Darkness? Is it just Pariah? This issue, I guess, kind of clears it up as it's mostly just Pariah, but there was a little bit of the Great Darkness in there or something.
Right, and then it was less Pariah and more Deathstroke at a certain point. So yeah, that was a little bit murky. It kind of, not that it left a complete bad taste in my mouth, but the event kind of as a whole, to use the Dark Crisis branding, I don't know, it seemed to lack like the heft of a proper crisis to me.
I think, to me, sadly, this event was kind of just Joshua Williamson through and through. There's good ideas, there's good issues, but ultimately when it's all done and you look at kind of the net gain of what we've done, it doesn't feel like it's actually because what I liked in this issue, and this is kind of why it feels weird when they start explaining that the Great Darkness wasn't that involved, and it was mostly Pariah, and then Deathstroke kind of just sort of it was being taken over for a bit, but then he kind of agreed with it and sort of said, I'm going to help destroy everything.
Well, yeah, so, he let the darkness in, and then it's Deathstroke's own darkness that takes over.
Oh yeah, but this is the problem I have though, is that this issue. And I do like part of this, even though I think it makes no sense with everything else they say, is that part of this issue is that Nightwing is fighting the darkness, right? So Nightwing's been infected with it, and Deathstroke's in his head talking to him about, his past. And this idea that Dick Grayson might actually be strong enough to just fight it off when no one else has been is cool. It elevates Dick. We always think of him as the heart of the DCU anyway, so it's a really big moment for him. And I like those segments where it's like Dick fighting it and kind of like coming through it. But it doesn't make the greatest deal of sense when they start explaining exactly like what the darkness that's being used right now is, because it's not actually the Great Darkness. At least maybe it is by a small part. A small part of it is the Great Darkness.
Yeah, the way that I thought about it is the Great Darkness is so vast. This is just a piece of it that's gotten away.
It kind of made me roll my eyes as a comic book reader though, because they're like, oh, that's just a small part of the Great Darkness. If we actually ever had to face the real full Great Darkness, it'd be even bigger. And okay, comic books, everything has to be bigger next time. I don't know.
Right, of course, but but at the same time, it's one of these things where it's like, Williamson wants his cake and eats it too, right? By saying like, oh well, the Great Darkness is really, it's just nothing. It there's no intent there. It just is existing, So if it ever did, then yeah, we'd have trouble. But it's like, well, yeah, if all the water on the earth decided to, start flooding on its own, we'd have a lot of trouble too. But, it was really weird. Like, this felt almost like a epilogue to everything. And that's kind of how the event, like, it's had a weird structure. From the time that when this all started with what was the Infinite Frontier,
Yeah.
right? Through the Infinite Frontier, through the death of the Justice League, to this.
Oh, don't forget Justice Incarnate in the middle of all that.
And Justice
as well.
Incarnate, yeah. Oh, it's felt very weird and almost like we were meant to believe that the Dark Army was this big, scary threat, and then they're just kind of there at the end. Like their teeth are taken out of them.
It's also kind of weird when I start back. I look back at these 7 issues now and how this fight that's been going on outside of the Hall of Justice has lasted like 4 of them.
Yeah.
I think it was the end of issue 2 or 3 that ended with like the fight coming to the Hall of Justice, and then this fight's just been happening since.
Yeah.
So
and there were some really, really big moments, like when Beast Boy gets shot, right?
Oh yeah, Superman blocking Doomsday from hitting John. In this issue, I like the Dick stuff. I also, I think Black Adam has highs and lows in this. I think the idea that Black Adam is willing to share his power with all of the heroes to help fight the Great Darkness, that's actually kind of cool. It's a big moment of growth for him. But I also couldn't help but chuckle that the only reason why they're probably doing, or they wrote this in, is because he had a movie coming out, and there's even a people's eyebrow towards the end of the issue, and I couldn't help but feel like, I'm glad that Black Adam's getting this respect, and it feels like a big deal that he's doing this, but is this cynically only happening because you think, oh, this character might be bigger than he was before just because of the movie, so we're kind of like banking in that a little bit, and it basically it left me feeling like this won't matter that much in the long run because the movie has kind of came and went. It's not really going anywhere. So,
I do feel though that Black Adam is primed for a moment, just because we had that Winter book, I forget the name of it, right, where he was pretty central in that, and then he's had his own book by Priest, which this actually made me want to go back and catch up just to see what's going on there. So even if just in the comics we get an evolved Black Adam, so he's not, stuck in this constant, ruler of Kahndaq phase, then cool. But yeah, I thought the same thing. I was like, whoever the artist was there at the end, drawing the people's eyebrow, I thought was very funny, because I think like it's one of those things, like if you're looking for it, you'll see it. But if you were just reading, so I had to go back and go, did he just raise the people's eyebrow?
It's a weird thing. It kind of took me out of it. Like, I don't know if I don't know if your final issue of your big event book is the moment for that little sly, meta reference to the actor playing the character in the movie.
Right.
It's the same, because I enjoyed reading the issue well enough, and that most of the action flows quite well. Like I say, I like the character beat specifically for Dick and placing him as this important center, especially since the ending. Before you get to the epilogue, is Batman saying, we're not reforming the Justice League, there needs to be a change, and whatever that change is, Dick, you need to be the one leading it, because you did that, and Dick's like, okay, I've got some ideas, and it sort of leaves you in this whole, and I like that, because I was speaking to David, I was recording Collector's Cut with David the other day, and he'd already read this, and he said that the ending was, I think the way he put it was, that's what you're doing. And I got to this Dick moment, not realizing there was an epilogue yet, and went, what's wrong with that? I was like, that's a nice moment. What are you talking about? This is like probably the best moment in the issue so far. And then
the epilogue, I agree with him.
Yeah, no, I do too.
It could have just ended. Yeah, it could have just ended with that, and I think I'd look back at this a lot better, because you're ending on that high.
Yeah, it's an optimistic ending, but instead we get this tease for the next threat, which is like, okay, I get why you're doing it, but there's almost this problem with comic books sometimes that you get with the wrestling, and you get bizarrely with soap operas, because they all share one thing. There's one fundamental problem that all those mediums or types of storytelling share, is that they all never end. So there's always the next thing, and they have to in some way tease that. And I've said it before, wrestling could use an off season. I don't watch soaps, but I presume they probably would benefit from an off season. And comics, likewise, I think it'd be okay to end this on a hopeful note and not have to set up the next threat yet. You can do that in the regular books in a bit of time. There's no need to do it now.
Yeah, 100%. And part of me, I put John's at fault for kind of that, because
Mm.
he would have those fun little teasers at the end of like Sinestro Corps. We'd get like, it almost would feel like a trailer for The Darkest Night. But this felt like it was just a tacked on ending.
Yeah,
it didn't even feel like a post credit or anything like that.
And it's not
or
even like
trailer.
it's like Snyder did this with his stuff as well. This has been a constant thing for a while. But there's one. There's like a page that's kind of like, here's what's happening in action soon. Here's what's been happening in Batman, and then there's the Neza stuff with Robin in that page. And it's okay. You got the Council of Light, which correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the same sort of thing that was in Young Justice, the animated series, right?
It's been forever since I've seen Young Justice, so I'm gonna take your word that if it's ringing a bell for you,
I want to say that was the Council of Light in that was behind all the shady going ons. Anyway, so they're talking to someone who's sort of, shrouded in darkness. We don't know who it is yet. It's someone saying they want to take the fight to the Justice League, sanction me to go after them, blah, 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 blah. They say they reject it, but it's kind of a double swerve where it's like, oh, no, not we're rejecting it because at this point we think metahumans are too dangerous. You have to just eradicate metahumans in general for the world. And I'm like, okay, that's an interesting thing. The idea that like the government or powers behind the government are enlisting someone to actually kill like every metahuman, and that's what like it's going to be like an attempted genocide of metahumans. That's potentially an interesting plot that could be quite weighty and could have a lot of dark stuff in it. I've got to say though, the reveal of the final page of who this is that's getting this permission made me groan. And it's not so much the central figure being Amanda Waller makes enough sense that I'm not necessarily groaning at her specifically, but it's her weird Suicide Squad that's standing behind her.
That's if it was just Waller and she goes, I know just the people, and then it left us guessing like, oh, who's this team she's going to...
Yeah, maybe she's going to build the ultimate Suicide Squad. But instead, I'm looking at this page and I'm like, we have Peacemaker and Lady Peacemaker. I don't know who that is. But
either.
We've got some... Do we know who this Bat Super Joker character is?
No, but it feels like, remember in Wade's in the early where they did the composite, like the Green Lantern, Batman, Superman.
Oh, that's right.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah, there's a Green Lantern ring as well. You're right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I got to this last page and I just went, huh. Like,
and there's one more, right? There's some creature behind.
Yeah, there's a big robot looking thing.
It looks like a robot Doomsday kind of deal. Yeah.
Honestly, this last page, I shit you not, is so like generic, teasing the next plot line with a group of villains sort of page, that it actually made this event feel smaller. The fact that this was teasing this at the end of it made Dark Crisis itself feel like a smaller deal because the ending's been used to tease this.
Yeah, I would agree. And that's what I mean by like, if they just ended it with the moment between Bruce and Dick and him talking about the light and, you took me into the cave and made me focus on the light. And now that's been my whole mission. And it ended there. And then this came up in like a month or two and some as a backup in something. Who knows? Whatever,
yeah.
Yeah, I think I would look back at Dark Crisis and go, okay, I get what the point of that was, that, Nightwing is the focus of all hope, right? And he's kind of this is why we believe him to be the cornerstone of the DCU. The heart and soul, if you will.
Yeah.
This is just kind of like, yeah, but hey, what's this next thing? Look at this guy. He's scary, huh?
It made me roll my eyes. I did not like the epilogue at all. Yeah, the stuff with Dick where he's like, yeah, here's the candle you made me swear in with, and I did the candlelight vigil back at the start of the series because it was kind of an honor of you making me take the oath. And Batman snaps the candle and says, "F that shit. You're my light, Dick. You're the one who's kept me sane. You're the one who's done all this. It's not some oath. It's not some blah, blah, blah." Like, I was like, okay, all right. You know what? I can get into the father-son stuff with Batman and his Robins. I usually, I choke up for. I like it. It's good stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's not just that, because in the meta context too. That's why they introduced Robin, was to keep Batman from being too dark. So here for Bruce to comment on that, I was like, yeah, I needed a partner to keep me focused on not becoming what I hated. And Dick to be that, and what he represents, he is the younger sibling, not the younger sibling. What's the word I'm looking for? I mean, his relationship with Superman is one of my favorite things, right? Because that's like Uncle Clark, but he looks up to him a little bit differently than he looks up to Bruce, right? It's like how you look up to a different family member versus your parents. because they're that positive force, and you know you don't have to look at them as this authority figure. And you could do that with a lot of people that Dick's interacted with. I mean, we've seen it in Nightwing, all the different people that have showed up to assist him with Bloodhaven. So,
Yeah.
you know,
It's it's kind of, yeah, like, you know, that stuff was good. Like, some of these character beats are pretty solid. You know, it sets up where a bunch of the characters are going. You know, like there's a 9-panel grid page where it's like, okay, the JSA are, you know, back to being the JSA, so they're going to like deal with stuff. The Titans have got the tower again. You know, the what do you call it, the Quintessence
are back
together, so that's going again. Roy and Diana are going to go look for Oliver, you know, all this stuff.
Still not knowing what's going on with Ollie, right? Like,
that's one of the weird blunders of this whole series. Was his sacrifice moment. Like, it came out of nowhere so quickly that we just kind of went like, why does he have to sacrifice himself? I don't understand.
Right. And was that in an actual issue, or was that in one of the tie-ins? It had to have been in the actual issue, right?
I assume so, but it says something that we can't say definitively that it was.
No. Oh, and then to find out that the Big Bang issue takes place after Dark Crisis. That was weird.
That was a little bit weird, yeah. It makes a bit more sense, admittedly, in hindsight, but like, yeah, that is a bit weird. Like, why not just release it later? I don't.
Right, and then after this, so the Anti-Monitor's like, now's my time. I'm gonna go start eating universes again. And it's just like, okay, I would understand if this as it was going on, but yeah.
Also, Deathstroke after all this is in a tank, looking kind of Darth Vader-esque without all his armor on. And someone, I don't know if we could tell from that sleeve who it is, but someone is turning off the medication that's helping with his pain, so he's just being tortured in this tank.
If I had to guess, it's his ex-wife, because that was their whole dynamic in Priest's run, is how much they hated each other.
Sure.
You know, but yeah, I did like this because it is some growth for Deathstroke, because what Williamson says to here is that he was going to unleash the darkness because he was tired of losing his kids, right? And when you think about it, just recently, when he found out about Respawn being a clone of him, you know, and whatever, but then you think about all the kids he has lost with Grant, with Jericho at a certain point, Rose, you know, I do like this, that it left him, he did this out of a weird protective thing, which is kind of how he was against the Titans, right? Like, he was finishing the contract, and his whole thing against Nightwing was always like, I'm doing this to teach you a lesson that you shouldn't mess around with this stuff. So it felt very much in vibe with who he is. And then so at the end where he's, you know, the darkness has burned out his serum, right? He's in this tank, like you said, like Darth Vader. And it's, you know, this new version of Deathstroke that I've never seen before. Right, I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's looking pretty rough.
Yeah. So. Yeah,
I did like. There's a scene where Barry and Hal are basically talking about how they were once the new kids when they took over for Alan and Jay, and how there's this new generation now under them that they're kind of like giving way to. And I like that little reminiscing moment. That was kind of sweet. And you know, so I say there's some character beats in here that I really like, but like the overall story does feel quite messy by the end, and the epilogue like teaser is just whatever. Like, I don't know. You know, so the artists on this, because there was 4 of the bloody things. Jack Herbert, Daniel St. Pierre, Giuseppe Camuncoli, Cam Smith, and sorry, it's 5, not 4, and Rafa Sandoval. You could tell it was shifting around quite a bit, and it's a shame because there is some pages that I'm like, oh, this is a really nice page here, and then it shifts and you're like, oh, now it's changed and it's not as good.
Because the styles clash a little bit. Pretty sure Sandoval did the epilogue, because that felt very Sandoval.
It makes sense that was like one of the artists was just on the epilogue.
So, but kind of just thrown together, kind of, you know, again, if it wasn't for the epilogue, I'd think about this a little bit better, because of those strong moments, you know, because of the Dick. And then again, it comes down to Dick versus Slade, right? Like, that is an epic rivalry.
I think I probably wouldn't rate it super highly, but I would be more positive in the sense that, okay, it's kind of the usual messy event thing that doesn't really feel like it's a big deal in the end, but it does have the good character piece to come out of it. So as long as you're okay and like you're not too jaded by these types of events, you can probably get something out of it. But the ending is kind of weird, and the epilogue, is weird and just kind of deflating and kind of retroactively just makes everything feel smaller. I will say, Black Adam giving his power to everyone. You get that nice 2-page spread where everyone's in Black Adam colors, which was a bit weird to me, like because Mary Marvel's there, and I'm like, but she's already got Shazam power. Why is she being affected by this? That was a bit odd, but whatever.
Probably because the artist just wanted to draw Mary Marvel there.
Probably, yeah. But I will say that if Billy did this or Mary did this, it'd be a cool moment, but it means a lot more for Black Adam to do it because he's typically like he looks down on them, he's against them,
Well, there's that, and we know how he got his power, right, by killing his nephew. Who wouldn't share the power, so he takes it for himself.
It's a better character moment for him to share than it is for Billy or
exactly.
whoever. Yeah,
because that's who Billy's been from the beginning, right? That's how we get the Shazam family and Freddie and Mary originally. So I thought that was a really cool moment because it goes with the story of Black Adam being like, I can't run with these kids. These kids aren't gonna go far enough. And then so the fact is like, well, no, that was the point, and they are worthy, and they need my help. So for him to finally, give in to do that, and the only way he can do that is to share his power is a real cool thing.
Yeah, that's a good moment for him. So there's good moments, but god damn that epilogue just makes everything feel smaller and just generic by
well, and again the whole Great Darkness, which again the red herring of it all is fine at the beginning, and reading through the tie-ins about the Great Darkness is just existing and it's being manipulated by Pariah, and then to find out that it's not this threat, but you get to the end and it's just Deathstroke because even Pariah's gone. It just kind of fell flat for me.
Yeah, we said that last issue, but this shifting to Deathstroke being the main villain is weird. It doesn't feel right. It feels like an odd shift. So
like had it been Deathstroke from the beginning, because of whatever had happened, it allowed the darkness to enter him and manipulate him. But yeah. Also, I did look up the Council of Light, and that 100% from Young Justice.
Okay, cool.
So
not crazy. Good.
No. So if you're aware of who's on the Council of Light on the show, I'm pretty sure that's going to be part of the reveals later.
Possibly. I only vaguely remember, but yeah. But there's a lot of episodes early in Young Justice season 1 that end with like a villain talking to this Council of Light. It's a very recurring theme for a while.
Yeah.
So okay. Well, in that case, what are you rating Dark Crisis issue 7?
I'm gonna give this a 7.5.
I thought I can go that high.
It's fine.
Maybe. I think it would have been a 7 without the epilogue, because I would have been like, this is messy, it's weird that we've shifted villains, but I like enough of the character moments to give it a 7. I think with this epilogue, it has to go down at least another half point to 6.5. But I think I'm going to go even. I'm going to say 6. I'm going to give it a 6.
Okay.
Even though there's some moments in it I really like, I think overall the messiness, the shift of the villain, the fact that we're still in the same battlefield 4 issues later, when it feels like there's not a lot of distinct moments that feel like have progressed issue to issue, and then the fact that this epilogue just completely is like, eh?
Yeah, what? Yeah.
That's my noise. Eh? So, yeah, there you go. 6 out of 10 for me on Dark Crisis 7. Nightwing 99. Tom Taylor writing with Bro Redondo and Geraldo Borges on the art. So yeah,
couple pages of Borges. You can tell, but it doesn't add a speed bump.
It keeps into the style of the main art as best it can. And I wonder if this is because obviously issue 100 is a bigger issue. Maybe Redondo had extra pages to do on that or something. Not that I suspect he's doing the whole issue, but
yeah. Can I just say that I'm tired of Nightwing maintaining this quality? Like,
what a weird complaint to have.
Right? Just why?
The only bad thing about Nightwing is that it might be too good.
Right. That's where I'm at. Where I'm just like, man, this gets into some weird stuff of Bloodhaven, and I'm so intrigued. And just when I'm thinking like, oh, okay, this will be a nice capper for Nightwing, the stuff with Tony Zuko and Melinda. And I was like, damn, Taylor, what are you doing? Where's all this stuff coming from? Keeping me hooked on.
It's opened up
keeping
a new
me hooked
thing,
on Dick.
So
is what he's doing.
Keeping you hooked on Dick, is it?
Yep, keeping me hooked on Dick.
Matt can't get enough of Dick.
Nope.
All right, so
yeah.
Basically, because Blockbuster's been taken down and because Maroni's been taken down, this issue brings in Tony Zuko, who's been out of prison on good behavior, apparently. And he comes to see his daughter and he's like, hey, we're going to take over this town, you and I. The Zuko's will be a big deal. Our name's going to mean something. And of course, she immediately goes and tells Dick because she's not a villain, like her father. And he's going to apparently steal something to make a lot of money in the next day. So Dick follows him as Nightwing to this lighthouse. It turns out the two mysterious women that are in trench coats with Zuko are Double Dare.
I loved it because they are circus performers. So of course Zuko would be using circus people.
Of course. Well, what I really like about it is just that, you know, even as he's following, there's this kind of like tension to it because this is the man who got his parents killed. So, and it's one of those like little things where I never want Bruce to get revenge or deal more directly with like a villain who, I don't like that in the Batman movie Joker killed his parents, right? And obviously we know who Joe Chill is, but Joe Chill's not this like, he's not another one of his villains who are doing things constantly that Batman's dealing with. But I like that with Nightwing, it's different. Because Tony Zuko is this active crime boss who is going to keep trying to be a crime boss, and Dick has to kind of be faced with that constantly whenever this stuff goes on. But yeah, it turns out there's this kind of, underground criminal like bank, this vault system under this lighthouse, which is actually an old pirate ship in a cave under the lighthouse.
with a whale skeleton over it. It looks cool as hell.
I'm glad you know that's a whale, because I wasn't sure.
Yeah, it definitely looks like it's a humpback. The way that it's positioned.
I think it's just because it's this long looking beak. I was like, is this some sort of dinosaur? Like, what is this thing? But yeah, so that's kind of like the entrance to it's this big skeleton, the skull that's opened, and Zuko goes and steals this safety deposit box that belongs to Maroni. And the guy who's there tries to stop him. I was getting a lot of the Continental from John Wick vibes from this.
Yep. 100%, but pirate themed.
Yeah, but the old guy with the beard who's there, like, he's like the Lance Reddick. Oh yeah, the concierge, yeah. But the Lance Reddick of this place where he's like, no, if you do this, like, the people who store things here are not going to let this go. Like, they're going to come after you. And Zuko shoots the guy in the eye and he goes to shoot him again to kill him, and that's when Nightwing comes in with his
stick. Just boom, knocks the gun out.
And we get this great 2-page sequence. It's a 2-page spread, but it's like all the stages of a fight as Nightwing's fighting Double Dare up and like down all the parts of the pirate ship, as Zuko's like running along the bottom, then across the bridge, and like Nightwing's sort of like chasing him from, because Nightwing's running up the tail of the whale. Is it whale? It is a tail still technically, but but it's glorious.
It's what we've come to expect from action sequences from Taylor and Redondo. Just the fluidity, so it's all on one page, but there's multiple of the characters and you're following them. It gives it this nice sense of fluidity, and it's such a delight to read.
It's almost the equivalent of doing like a oneer in a movie where you do it all in one thing. So obviously Dick gets to Zuko and he's going to beat him up, and that's when this ship of like mercenaries who are here to like defend this place show up. And they try to tell Dick that they're taking him, but the old guy comes out and says, no, Nightwing showed up and like helped defend this place technically, even though obviously Nightwing doesn't care about defending this place specifically. But because of that, no, let him take Zuko to the authorities. He's right. But there's a little hint here dropped for the future where he says, hey, Nightwing, there's a safe here for you. And I don't know if the number 538 is something we can tie to in Nightwing. I was like, what happened to the Detective Comics 538? Because that's the one book that has that number that could be relevant, but I don't know.
Could be,
So apparently he's got a box that was left there from someone. It just says someone. Yeah, it doesn't say who.
There's somebody, and it's like, but is it for Nightwing or is it for Dick Grayson? Like, do they know?
That's the question. If he doesn't know who he really is, then it'll just be for Nightwing. But if this could be a reveal that he really knows that he's Dick Grayson, I don't know.
Right, and and who put it there, and there, and he comes back with an eye patch, right? The quartermaster.
He shows up with an eye patch,
which gives him even more of a pirate look, which I love. After being shot in the eye, who is this guy? Just puts a patch on and goes to take in Zuko.
Yeah, the only thing I
the
could think
captain.
is like maybe his parents, but his parents weren't part of the crime underworld, so why would they
No,
have something here specifically?
no,
I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah, it's weird. So that's a little tease for the future though, and a bit more delving into like his backstory.
mhm,
Um, Melinda goes to see her father, who's now in jail, to
mhm.
visit him, and basically says and tells him that not only is she helping put him away and keeping him away for everything he's done, she informs him that she's legally changed her name and she's no longer a Zuko, and that name's dying with him. She's now Melinda Grayson Lynn. She's taking Grayson as part of her
Ugh.
last name. So
I'm not saying it made me misty eyed, but it did not make me misty eyed. The Dick officially has a sister now, right? Like,
yeah, it's nice because obviously this guy,
yeah,
Zuko cares so much about his legacy. The idea that she's
yeah,
choosing to leave that behind.
right.
You can see it. That's part of the art that's great here is that his reaction to this, like
Hmm.
he's so smug in that top panel on that page,
Yep.
and then he's like in shock. He's shook. He's shook as the kids say.
Yep.
So no. But yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have Nightwing and Melinda
Mhm.
talking about this, and talking about how to take over or protect the city. The only thing that I guess my only critique, other than just a few pages of a different artist,
Yeah.
that I want to make on this issue, is that when they're talking towards the end of the issue, we see like Zuko in his cell and someone's talking to him from the next cell,
Mhm.
and then the next panel is KG Beast in a cell as well. And I wasn't sure if these two scenes were connected or if they're two separate things.
Yeah.
Because
So,
the next two panels, because this is like 4 vertical panels on this page,
yeah.
the next 2 are both Heartless stuff, and it's just sort of setting up that Heartless is like basically
Still,
taking over like all the henchmen of like Blockbuster or whoever by like ripping out hearts and threatening them and stuff.
yeah,
So-
and we know he's supercharged because he has Blockbuster's heart now.
Yeah, but he's grown his power as far as like being a
Mhm.
crime boss goes, right? So that's happening.
Yeah, so I took this as Heartless talking to them. He's gonna pull them in because
Oh, okay.
of course, to rip out Dick Grayson's heart, you're gonna have Tony Zuko, and you're gonna have the guy that turned him into Rick Grayson, right? Like Taylor's talked on this, or not talked on it, but through the
through the
Night
book,
Mite
yeah.
stuff, yeah, he's referenced that. So of course they're gonna go to the guys that had these big impacts on Dick
Okay,
Grayson's life.
I can see it now that you're saying it, that maybe
Mhm.
that's the through line here that connects all these panels together.
Yeah,
But it did read because it kind of felt like because the second 2 panels were obviously connected in the same scene,
Mhm.
that I was expecting. I wasn't sure if the first 2 were like tied together as the same scene because they've
Yeah.
got similar coloring, just like how the second 2 panels are both
Mhm.
bathed in red.
yeah,
Those are both blue
and
yellow.
maybe this is the butler dude for Heartless. I've written his name,
Oh, maybe
Yeah.
maybe he's going to recruit them.
And-
Yeah.
and he's recruiting them.
Which
and
you know,
so it
as
makes,
much as I hate the whole Rick Grayson thing, the idea that
Yeah.
KG Beast is the one behind that, and then Zuko's the one behind his parents. Yeah, you're kind of building almost like an anti-Dick Grayson Avengers
Yeah.
in a weird way.
Yeah. it's the was it the Superman Revenge Squad?
yeah.
Right?
There you go. There you go.
Kind of, it's the Nightwing Revenge Squad, and I like that just because it's been so, like, Taylor has paced us out so well over the course, and
Yeah, it feels like a run. It feels like a long run that has like a
Yep.
game plan and it knows where it's going,
yeah,
which is great.
yep, like
Uh,
again, stop being so good.
Yeah, this whole like bank, underground bank vault thing.
I'm so curious about this because I think it's a little cheesy, but it's also super cool.
it's definitely a bit cheesy, but it kind of works.
But yeah,
Uh,
just the idea that the guy that runs the keep or whatever it's called he's the quartermaster, and then the leader of the mercenaries is the captain. And like you said, I didn't even make the John Wick comparison, but yeah, it definitely feels like the Continental. Like there's this whole secret world that no one's aware of unless you're involved in it. And I feel like if something bad happens, I feel like whatever's in that vault is going to help Nightwing defeat Heartless. So maybe these guys, maybe the keep, whoever they're called, are gonna be the people that help get him back up to par. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of play there. I like the character. I was also surprisingly kind of moved by Melinda changing her name. I don't know
Mhm.
why. I wasn't expecting
too.
that to hit me, but it kind of did in the moment.
Yeah, me too.
So-
And just the idea though that he's Dick's never been alone, but like, because he's got the Robins and he's got Barbara, but just the idea that he has a blood sister out there now that he can actually, by name, they're not just in blood, that it is his sister. I think that's going to mean a lot going forward. And I just hope she's not a target for Heartless, because if Taylor's doing this just to rip out our hearts, I'm gonna be so mad at him. Yeah. Don't do it, Taylor, please. I know you're a patron saint, but please.
I mean, if you're going to kill a character who's like a regular in this book, she's the one that would make the most sense.
And he's done a lot to endear her.
Because there'd be an uproar if he kills Babs. And
I think that's off books. I think
so.
Anything like that, or
it's Melinda or the dog, right? Yeah. These are the choices.
Yeah. And I mean, the dog just got a short story in the annual, so, Bitewing's over, right? You're not gonna.
Yeah, which for those of you who don't watch wrestling, over it means popular, not
canceled.
Yeah, over doesn't mean it's ended. Over means they're over with the crowd, meaning that the crowd likes them, and So think of it as they went over the line or over the top. Or I always think of it as maybe like yeah, I guess that's a better way of saying it. I was going to say it's like the cup's full and it's spilling over, even though that sounds like a bad thing, though. I don't know. Look, it's just a stupid wrestling term, okay? I can't explain it.
I know. So, but yeah, no. I had that when she got the name change, that's where I was like, oh no, please. Tom Taylor, don't do this to us. And he probably will, because this is what he does so well.
He's going to break her hearts. He is.
Yeah, so... And this is why we love him. That's why he's amongst our favorite writers, And when we get to the end of year special, the annual, that's why Tom Taylor's name is always high up on our list, is because of stuff like this.
It's funny you mentioned that, because we're very close to the end of year special soon. In fact, we'll be talking about that when you record that, probably when we're done today. So all right, what are you rating Nightwing 99?
I'm giving this a 9.
I think I'll go 8.5, and it's just purely because there's a few pages of a different artist that kind of just break the consistency up a little bit. But it's very good. Excellent. Loving the ongoing story. Good stuff. So, cool. Looking forward to issue 100. Here's hoping that we can celebrate in about 70 issues Taylor's 100th Nightwing issue.
Yeah, for sure, right?
But who knows? But yeah, that's Nightwing 99. The Flash 789. Jeremy Adams writing with Fernando Pasarin on the art. So the Rogues were deputized, and this issue sort of continues that. Piper showed up to help, and he catches up with the family, who are excited to see him, all that stuff. But the main talking point here is kind of the reveal that it's not just Wolf who's like obviously we've seen that he has powers, and maybe we should have speculated that he was really someone else, or he had. It's not like it's a different character. It's still his body, but he's being possessed, or he's being co-inhabited by the Lords of Order.
Yep. Weird flex for them to go for this warden from Keystone City. Right, like usually it's Dove, or it's Naboo and Dr. Fate, but now they're gonna go after Gregory Wolf. So, but I like that, because that scene where he stops Wally in his tracks, right, with whatever, and you're like, oh man, what is going on? Also, I gotta give Jeremy Adams credit for this feeling very much like a John's era book, with all of the rogues and the banter in between them. And when you add Piper to it, it felt like a comfortable hug.
There's it's a very pleasant book, and I don't think it hits like an incredible high, but I think the art from Pasarin in this issue is particularly one of the best that this run's had, and I think there's like when Wally decides to go and confront Wolf, which is after a fun moment where like Linda says, just ask him about this corruption.
Go talk to him.
Yeah.
Well. And then when he shows up in his office too, and he's just very smarmy Wally, which I love.
Yeah, I was into that. But it evolves into a fight where, he tries to chase Wolf, and the rogues show up, and there's like a 2-page spread where it's Wally and Super Speed like punching each of the rogues individually. So it's this great 2-page, layout. That looks great. Even just the Rogues standing there waiting for him looked great. Like so much of this big like last half of the issue with the fighting with the Rogues just looked really good. And there's a fun like sequence where it's like Wolf grabs him by the neck, throws him into like the glass, where Mirror Master teleports him up to like another part of the glass, and then Cole just like has the ice gun blasting at him as he comes out. That's a really great little sequence. And it's all one panel. Sure. You know, it's all just
it's all one panel, and then like when Mirror Master does that, it's like the portal gun. Like I'm not familiar with that game at all.
Oh sure, yeah.
The
That's
pop culture, right? So you see half of his body going through and then coming out from another one, and it's kind of staggered, and Cold's waiting there, and then he gets frozen. Like it is a very. And it also makes the Rogues look like a threat, right? Like you can't take these guys lightly anymore. You know, they're not just some joke. So.
Yeah, and then you get to have the big, the family shot with Piper to help, and that's all good fun. So, but ultimately, like, it turns out like this is the Lords of Order coming through Wolf, and Wally says, "Connect to my mind, see me, and know that you don't have to do this. You don't have to do the martial law. You don't have to do this stuff." Some of this is a little bit murky and like it's a bit high concept plot wise, but the part of it that I did quite like was Wally admitting he was wrong for not thinking that the Rogues deserve a chance to be good.
Yep.
He basically says, look, I kind of jumped to this conclusion that they were still up to no good no matter what, and pursued that. And I shouldn't have, right? They deserve a chance to actually do something good if that's what they're really trying to do. And this issue ends with like him agreeing kind of like a ceasefire with Wolf. Yeah, it's like, okay, why about we still try and clean up the city without doing it this way so that we can do it more peacefully? And he's like, okay, the Rogues are still good guys technically, so we're kind of working with each other for a bit.
Yeah, and it made me think of the Renegades from the future too. Like, is this the start of that?
So no, it's a really interesting little end to this, which gave me a good chuckle.
For sure.
So.
Well, and then them bringing up, which we didn't read, but that Flash Forward book, like that page gets into that with him and Tempest Fugonaut, and it did give it like Wally does have this perspective now, almost like he's enlightened that there's bigger things going on, and like I should have given them the benefit of the doubt for once. Which the Rogues are gonna rogue, right? Like it's only a matter of time before they slip up and start doing crimes again. But for now, Wally can give them the benefit of the doubt.
And it's worth mentioning that Wolf is still, it's not like he's been taken over personality wise. Like once the Lords stop talking through him and he lands, he is Wolf that's talking again. He's clearly referring to the Lords as like in the third person, and so he is like there. He knows he's working with the Lords of Order, but he's and this is all set up because Wally's spent time in Gem World and working with Fate and stuff, and he references all that, and that's how he came to this conclusion. So we have this interesting like potential alliance with the Rogues going forward, and obviously we're starting the 1 minute war next. We're double shipping while that's going on, so. That looks like it's going to be a fun arc. And I had a good time with this issue. I do think like the Lords of Order thing almost did come out of nowhere for me, but I liked everything that came from it and the scene, which is Wally admitting how he was wrong and he should have believed that he could do better and so on. And then just the fun banter with the Rogues and also the family with Piper.
Yeah. Well, I love when Piper shows up and the kids start acting like kids. I love when comic kids act like kids. And all Jay wants to do is tell him his secret. His code name, right?
Yeah.
He's like, Harley, want to hear my code name? And it's real nice. And I'm still dying to know what Irie's new one's gonna be. So we'll see. It's gonna be revealed soon.
Impulsive.
Yeah, something along those lines. But then also Hartley finding out that he's working for Terrific Tech too, and him and Wally coming to that. He's like, oh, you worked there too? And then doing the buddy thing. So. There's just a lot of character to this book, and you can tell that Adams has an affinity for Wally and the family and everything, and it really comes through. So,
no, I had a good time. I think the art's really solid. I think Pasarin nails all the action here really well. I think the coloring's very good. Everything pops really nicely. I had a very pleasant time with the book. It's not necessarily hitting super like new highs or anything or doing anything groundbreaking. But I'm having just as a kind of a comforting time reading it most issues. Yeah. So, what are you rating The Flash? 7, 8, 9.
I'm gonna give this an 8.
You know what? Yeah, I'll agree with the 8.
Yeah.
I'll agree with that. All right, there you go. That's The Flash. All right, Batman versus Robin issue 4. Mark Waid writing with Mohammed Assar and Scott Godlewski on the art. It is like it's a pretty hefty. It's like a 45-page issue or something like that.
Yeah.
So pretty hefty, and obviously it wraps up what we've been doing. Damian does eventually sort of, when Batman breaks control of the spell. So Damian is back to normal by the end of the issue. Obviously, he's still under control for a good chunk of it though. And this is Neza, of course. He wants Damian to kill Batman. He's sucking in Lazarus juice whilst his son, whose name I still am not going to remember.
It's something King Bull, and that's what I got confused of in Monkey Prince.
Fire King Bull, something like that.
Fire King Bull, yeah. Is that it's Neza's son, not his dad, because his dad was the one that created the Lazarus pits.
Yes.
Just getting all caught up. I got that all mixed up, but to see that this threat of this,
is it
King
reading
Fireball.
monthly single issues is such a weird experience sometimes, because I will sometimes forget everything, and then I'll read a few pages of the next issue and go, okay, it's all starting to click back. But sometimes it's so weird, whatever they set up, that I'm like, okay, who is the son again? Like, what's going on with this bull fellow?
For sure.
But so Damian and Batman fight. There's some internal monologue about the moves that Damian's using, some of which he learned from Batman, some he learned from Shiva and other teachers that Bruce doesn't know, and this all being like, and I do like that Damian clocks this when he kind of has him beat. He's like, wait a minute, like Batman would have a plan, like you would know how this was going to go, so what was the plan? And it turns out that Batman already found Talia, and Talia comes out just as Nez is about to put on the Fate helmet, which has got all the other magicians and magic users' powers.
It's being supercharged.
Yeah. And the big play that Batman has here is that he grabs the helmet and puts it on, and I love that the Fate helmet gets the ears. Just
yeah, I was gonna say that too. It's again one of these things that's so cheesy, but it works.
That's a Mark Waid thing.
Yeah,
I'm just
100%.
That's absolutely what it is. So he fires out. He talks about how he's not really good with the helmet necessarily. I like this little detail. It's like, because magic's all about submitting to it and giving yourself over to it, and Batman can't really do that.
Yeah, Batman doesn't submit. Right?
It's just not who he is.
Yeah.
So, but he's doing a fair shake. He's firing magic bats at people, as you do.
I am 100% like not disappointed, but I figured we would have seen like a magic utility belt, right, pop up, and that's where he was pulling magic from, because that's how Bruce would think of magic, right?
He would still think of it. Yeah, he would think of it in a logical way. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, him shooting bats at people is pretty funny.
Yeah,
I had a good chuckle last night as I was reading this.
Yeah, so he's doing all this. He's fighting Neza, and the art gets kind of trippy as they're doing whatever. Mother Soul, Talia tries to push her off like a crevice or whatever it is, and Damian tries to save her because he's not a killer. He's I'm still Batman's son. I'm not doing that. But then she lets go. So we leave that off in kind of a promiscuous state. And Neza tries to take the helmet off Batman, but Batman, because he's resisting, the helmet explodes in a power of light, and it explodes into the Lazarus pit that's there in this volcano. And then Damian stabs Neza with a flaming spear, as you do. And Neza tries to fire a fire blast at Damian. Batman jumps in front of it and gets hit, and technically dies in the moment. And they have to channel the Lazarus energy from not the pit, because apparently that's because of the Fate helmet exploding and all the power, that's toxic now. That's not going to work. But they're channeling all the Lazarus energy that Neza absorbed earlier in this
from
issue.
Him sweating. Basically, it's Neza's sweat. From drinking the Lazarus juice. And
they're able to do this because he's too busy fighting his son. The Fire Bull King's shown up,
right?
And they're fighting. So this is all going on. This is all insane as shit. I just want to clarify this. This is nonsense. And a kind of a fun way.
We were getting a book called Batman versus Robin. I did not believe there would be Batman fighting a demon king in a cave that's filled with Lazarus pit.
Yeah.
Like, that's not where I thought this book would go at all.
So basically they run off at the end. Neza flees as well. They're going to Talia's plane, and the final page is the volcano on Lazarus Island erupting with Lazarus energy, no doubt causing the Lazarus planet that we're about to See,
experience.
yes.
Yes.
I mean, I can't say that I didn't have a good time reading it. I can't say that I didn't like some of the character beats, and I certainly can't say that I'm not intrigued by where it's going. But definitely, objectively, some of it's a bit weird.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and we also get the Shifu Pixie with Black Alice saying like,
Oh yeah,
know,
yeah, they're there too. I was too busy trying to get the big points. I wasn't even thinking about them.
Yeah, but so it's just, we have more work to do for you. Don't worry, little one. Which makes me wonder what's going on with Shifu Pixie. Because we know he's been Marcus's tutor in Magic, but like, what else is he doing when he's not with Marcus? Is he tutoring other people? Like,
Do you know what I think's interesting comparing this to Dark Crisis is that this arguably shares some things with Dark Crisis in that you've got a creator in Mark Waid, much like Williamson, who clearly is passionate about this and loves doing this weird stuff. I think the difference is that Waid is like pulling on like strands and doing things that at least I've not seen before, or at the very least not in a long time, and pulling on things like from Monkey Prince and stuff that are and Nez is this whole new thing. Whereas at least I think with Williamson and the Crisis stuff and a lot of the things that Williamson's done is that he ultimately kind of reverts back into a kind of nostalgia kind of thing where he goes back to kind of the well. Here, even though Wade's using things that he clearly cares about because he likes these characters and he likes the nostalgia of certain things, it feels like he's doing weirder things with it. So there's kind of almost like, even if I don't necessarily love every idea, there's kind of like I can appreciate and feel the passion constantly.
Yeah.
So because I don't necessarily like the idea that Batman died and was brought back by Lazarus just within 5 minutes. No. I'm not thrilled with that as a plot beat, to be honest. But
no, but I want to know. But I want to know how's that going to affect him through Lazarus Planet?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's almost like if you're going to compare the two, they're like two different artists they're covering a song, but the way that Williamson does it, it's like you can tell where that is. Whereas Wade's covering it all his complete way, and you're like, how is this even the same song? And I feel that's how he's that's how Wade approaches the DCU. Like he has this very, very complete knowledge of everything, and he's just like, well, how can I tweak it to make it different? Whereas I feel with Williamson, he's just like, yeah, no, I love DC. I'm just gonna, get into my comfort zone and write things.
Yeah, I guess the difference is that Wade wants to use everything he loves, and I think Taylor does this with a lot of his like characters and books right now, especially when you look at something like Deceased or you look at even just his Nightwing run. But using everything he loves to do new things with the characters, whereas it feels like Williamson's wanting to play the greatest hits again and is doing another Crisis because he wants to do his like callback to Crisis. So it's a little bit, it's almost like that legacy and nostalgia sequel problem that movies have right now, where Ghostbusters Afterlife can't be its own thing. It's just this love letter to Ghostbusters, and fundamentally, it's like it's too much sugar and dessert and not enough actual nutrition.
Right.
So, yeah.
So, but yeah, no, Mark Waid, I'm so glad he's back writing for DC. Like,
oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Came up reading his Legion. That's why I love Legion so much, and then I realized, I don't know, I really just love the Mark Waid version of Legion because it was the same thing. It was these familiar concepts of like Colossal Boy, right? But the way that Mark Waid did Colossal Boy was he was a giant naturally, and he would have to shrink down to Legion size. So when he would grow, he was just going back to his normal thing. So it was just always just a slight little tweak there to make it his own thing. And that's very much what this, Batman and Robin run been. I mean, we did the House of Secrets and the House of Mystery in issue 2, and how pulling from the DC, not legacy, but like their history of that book and those characters that had showed up that I didn't know who they were until I researched them. But the fact that Mark Waid did it his own way and how they converse with Batman, it's really cool. So again, I'm glad that he's back.
Yeah. All right, what are you rating? Batman v Superman? That's not Batman v Superman. Batman v Robin.
Yeah. You don't really want my score for that first thing you said. But Batman versus Robin, I'm gonna give this an 8.
What am I giving this? I'm gonna go with I'll go with a 7 on this. Like I think there's just enough things in it that I'm not as necessarily in love with, but I do like a lot. There was definitely an easy read. I'm definitely intrigued by where it's going, even though I don't think Lazarus Planet is something that I'm that actively excited about. I'm definitely curious. I'm definitely going to be, into at least seeing what it is.
Yeah.
So
it's one of those things where like I don't know what this is going to be, and it could be a complete mess or it can be complete zany fun.
Yeah,
it's going to be one of the two though. I don't think it'll be a middling mediocre thing, because he's swinging hard for whatever it is.
Yeah. So Batman Superman World's Finest issue 10, Mark Waid writing once again with Dan Mora on art, and this issue has a lot of big spectacle moments, but it has also a big reveal, because the whole time Boy Thunder has actually been another character that they have been holding back on us.
That we've been familiar with, kind of. We got to that last page reveal, and it hit me in the face like a splash of cold water. And I was like, oh, Mark Waid.
You son of a bitch.
Yeah, it's been staring us in the face the whole time. So yeah, such a good reveal. And this issue gets kind of dark.
Oh yeah.
Not just because of the stuff that happens with Boy Thunder and Joker, but when you get to the key and a lot of his inner, monologue, not inner monologue, but the way that he goes over his origin and stuff, it was just creepy. And with the art that Mora does, it gets all psychedelic in parts. And I was like, I wasn't ready for this book to get this dark. So, props to the creative
even
team.
the fact that Superman is kind of pissed because obviously this kid was kidnapped on his watch, and he's angry every time he goes somewhere. He's got the red in his eyes, and they're trying to find him, obviously. But yeah, the big thing is that Joker's torturing Boy Thunder to the point that when Boy Thunder does get free later on, when the cavalry shows up, he chases down Joker, and he wants to brutally kill him. He's done. He's beating the shit out of him, and it skips to the flash forward to present day, or somewhere, at least somewhere around present day, and it's like, this is Magog. This is who this is.
Yep.
This is someone who could have maybe been a hero, but this is not a Superman or Batman. This is someone who instantly just the Joker messed with me. I am going to F him up, and I'm going to do it and make sure I get vengeance.
Yeah, so for the people that don't know, Mark Waid wrote Kingdom Come, and it was this alternate future where the Joker had came to Metropolis and killed the Daily Planet staff, right? But Superman being Superman is like, well, we can't kill him, So this new hero comes in and ends up making fame for killing the Joker, and this character was Magog. And originally when he was written, Mark Waid meant him to be this pastiche of like 90s comics, because didn't Kingdom Come came out in what, 98? 99, 98? Maybe earlier, 97?
I was saying 96.
Okay, maybe earlier, but
I mean, I could check.
So Magog, he was this like, covered in metal, had a bunch of pouches, had this, these cool like horns, and he carried this staff. And he was kind of to be reminiscent of characters like Cable, and he was edgy, and he wasn't afraid to kill, and he definitely was not your Superman and Batman.
I'll take some points, by the way, because it was 96.
Dude, nailed it. All right. Maybe I didn't read it till like 99. That's why that sticks out, or 98.
I didn't read it till like 2012. So
yeah. So, but yeah. So, just the idea that this book has been kind of this Silver Agey take, this timeless take on Batman and Superman, and the Titans, and these idealized versions of DC characters through the eyes of Mark Waid, that we get essentially the origin of this 90s edgy character through Boy Thunder, and how that relates to Superman and Batman.
Joe, what's so weird about it is that obviously I recognized him and went, wait, I think I know who this is, and it took me a second I was like, oh, Magog, yes, it's Magog. Yep. But it didn't click right away that this was like a Mark Waid creation, because part of me thought, oh, that's interesting, he's doing a new origin for Magog. Yeah. And then I thought, wait, Kingdom Come, that's Mark Waid. Like, this is Mark Waid doing an origin for his own character. Yeah. So
I mean, and I know John's tried to give us Magog in a Justice Society book, and it never landed. So, they've tried this, though, just because maybe it is Mark Waid, and just looking at this, in the context of DC history, it makes sense that the lost sidekick of Superman is the one that killed the Joker after an attack on the Daily Planet.
So generally, the idea here is that, assuming this is the same one that's going to go to Kingdom Come, but it might not be.
Right.
But the idea is that he goes back to his Earth, and there's a, well, not his Earth because his Earth is gone, but he goes to the Kingdom Come Earth, right? And you know, this is the same one. Or do you think the idea is here is that this is just our universe's version of Magog?
Maybe, but Mora does almost a his version of Alex Ross art there in the back. So it's definitely sending up Kingdom Come in that way. And even I'd have to go back and look if even Superman has the same gray temples, and you know, like he did in that scene in Kingdom Come. But it felt very Kingdom Come. So I don't know. Maybe if this is why Boy Thunder's not around. Maybe something happened that he, you know, I don't know, because it does get timey-wimey.
It would suggest that he did leave and he went to another Earth, and that's why you know, we don't really know much about Boy Thunder, and that's why it's kind of this lost story of the early Superman Batman relationship. I'm looking at that last page. I don't see any Grey Temples. This looks like to me we're in the regular universe from this. Although it does kind of look like Superman might have longer hair, so maybe this is meant to be 90s mullet Superman. Yeah,
maybe, because I just in my head I went to Kingdom Come, so I mean that's why I thought it had the Grey Temples. But I was mainly fixated on Magog standing over Joker. You didn't, because you know that's a key part. Because then it's after that Superman kind of quits and goes up to the fortress, you know, for years, and then that's where Magog.
Then again, in Kingdom Come, did he have the Grey Temples already at this point?
I don't. That's what I mean. I don't remember.
Actually, I don't think he did. Now I'm thinking about it. This might be Kingdom Come, because this. I think Superman only got the Grey Temples once the time had passed afterwards.
Once the time had passed, because when they go to get him at the fortress, and he's been just soaking up solar radiation, you know, from you know, working the farm there, and he cuts his hair. That's where he has the Grey Temples. So I'm probably just over, you know, laying that on.
I do want to say that this page turn for the last page reveal is fantastic. It's so unexpected. Because, you know, it's just him yelling at Joker saying that he's going to kill him, but the sentence finishes on the last page when it's Magog, you know, at some time later, probably in Kingdom Crisis, and Kingdom Come.
Don't give Williamson any more ideas.
Oh God, there's so going to be a book called Kingdom Crisis someday. There absolutely is. Anyway,
what's funny though too is that Wade, this is his own retconning of Magog, and maybe this will play into, because he did a sequel to Kingdom Come just called The Kingdom. And it was not good, but it basically posited that, you know, spoilers for Kingdom Come here, but at the end there's a baby that's born that, you know, is kind of a representation of the whole Trinity. That baby gets kidnapped and do timey-wimey events, ends up becoming Magog, and that's why he kills Joker. I hope this is meant, you know, this is Wade retconning all of that. Because then again, that doesn't have to be a sequel. Yeah. But it's definitely something that's been in his mind, I feel, for a while.
This is one of the best last page reveals in a while. Because it just... Because I didn't feel like it was building up to a reveal. That's the perfect part of it. It didn't feel like it was doing that at all. So then when it hit you with that last page, you're like, oh, wait a minute, twist.
Yeah. Big time. And wasn't, again, not expecting that to show, not expecting any Kingdom Come-ness from Wade.
And part of it as well is, I think the reason why we weren't even thinking about, like, who is Boy Thunder really, is because it felt like a new character. And I think even though we always knew this was set in the past, I think we kind of forget that when we're talking about it, because it's just like, we're just sort of, you know, so this idea that it turns out to be someone else from later that we just didn't know the origin of, or at least not this version of the origin, is interesting. So, no, great swerve there. Yeah, some good action as well with Superman and Batman storming, you know, the Keymasters.
That's where I talk about the psychedelicness, is that they go and Joker and the Key are working together, and so they're hidden away through one of the Key's like door portals, and there's just a whole bunch of them, and you know, Batman, Superman, and the Titans are going through different ones, and these creatures are coming out, and these doors are floating, and just what it does with the colors, it's very trippy and in a very good way. So, you know, he's really Mora's on top of his game here. Let's see.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm going to continue to call him Keymaster as much as I want, for the record, before anyone corrects me.
That's fine.
Just blame Ghostbusters, but I can't say the key. It's just weird.
Yeah. I'm trying to see if I remember if Magog had a name that was said, because it is David, right? His boy Thunder.
Yeah, that's his name. Yeah, David.
Yeah. So I'm trying to see if we'd ever gotten a name on him, but not sure. They called him Lance in Justice Society, but that was when Johns had tried his thing, so that doesn't really count.
Yeah.
But yeah,
no, David might be a new element to it. The name
might definitely be a new element that I'm just adding stuff onto my own. Oh no, Lance Corporal David Reed in Justice Society of America.
Ah.
So who's the great grandson of Franklin Roosevelt? So that was Johns. So, yeah, maybe that's where also that Wade's pulling from the name, but just David as almost an homage to that. But yeah,
that's almost like a double bluff that he's using the name that Johns gave him potentially.
Yeah.
As a sort of like thing. No one will suspect it because that's what Johns called him.
Right. And so yeah, man, it's one of the like biggest, WTF moments
It's so
I've had
funny
reading in a while.
It's so funny that in a week with one of the most underwhelming final pages of a book in Dark Crisis 7, one of the best in recent memory final pages of a book in World's Finest happens at the same time. That's just kind of wild to me.
Yeah.
So no, it's good stuff, and the rest of the issue is solid. I don't know if I necessarily like the rest of the issue as much as the last couple, because it is all, there's a lot of it. It's just this one big fight when they actually get to the the lair and they're fighting through the trippy worlds and the doors. Like, it's solid art. The art looks great. Mora's obviously killing it, but it doesn't have as much of a structure as some of the previous issues. But I do like it a lot. But the ending's fantastic. It's like easily the best ending to any issue this book's had, probably.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, and I was like, okay, this is cool. Like, we're doing the key stuff, and he had his origin that he's always wanted to, figure things out, and he is that key. And I was like, okay, we're kind of doing some weird stuff here. And then we get to the Joker stuff with Boy Thunder, and when he gets loose, and just that rage that he has. Which was not expecting that. That pulled me right back in.
Yeah, which begs the question, like, what happens now with him? Like, does Superman and Batman realize that his rage is too much and they have to send him somewhere, or does he choose to leave and go to a different Earth, or is Magog just a thing that is around in the universe now in our current continuity? That's he grew up maybe on another planet after this or whatever, right. But I don't know. It's interesting.
They'll have to send him somewhere.
Yeah,
because
he's definitely just not around all the time on Earth. So yeah, he definitely has to be gone somewhere. But very intriguing. What are you rating World's Finest issue 10, Matt?
8.5.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think I agree with 8.5. The ending just sort of bumps it up a whole point, pretty much. All right. Stargirl, The Lost Children, issue 2. Jeff Johns writing with Todd Nuck on the art. So, Emmy and Courtney go to the Arrow Cave, which Courtney rightly points out that Oliver really wanted to be Batman. Because it's very Batcave looking.
It is so funny, and it's a great commentary, because that is down to the different suits that are on display in cases.
Even the idea that he's got like all the old sidekick costumes and stuff.
Yeah. This was, you're talking about reading Comics Monthly. Sometimes it takes you a minute to remember. This was definitely one of those for me. Whereas I had to try to remember where we left off at and what was going on, because we just jump in with Courtney and Emmy.
End of the last issue teased the island, right? It teased the old sidekick who was researching, like maybe dying on the way to the island or just almost getting there.
And then it all kicked in, and it made sense. So
and this, what's really neat actually is that it makes a point of showing you some of the costumes in this Arrow Cave that are going to be the characters that show up at the end of the issue, so that you've seen them already, so that you get that this is the missing sidekicks.
Who they are.
But it's basically Emmy and Courtney get in the boat, which, by the way, I assume Emmy just knows how to operate a boat, because like I don't know how to operate a boat. You put me in a boat, I don't know what I'm going to do. But whatever, these teenagers are better at things than I am. So they're going to this spooky triangle in the water, not quite the Bermuda Triangle, but similar idea. And that's one of the islands here is the one that Emmy was sort of kidnapped on and kept for a long time. She even talks at one point about how she kind of feels sad that Oliver never came looking, even though she knows that he didn't know about her, but she doesn't want to tell him that because he'll feel guilty, even though he didn't know who she was at the time. So I thought that was an interesting little bit of character building that they're doing there. Courtney has this like thought that, you know, in her narration, that even if they find these missing sidekicks, they'll all be like in their 90s. So she basically prays to the gods and says, please can one of them still be alive, just so that, you know, it'll help Emmy out a lot if we find at least one of these sidekicks.
And it was this, and I also like that she wants the idea that at least even if they are dead, it gives a closure, right?
Sure, but it was this moment though where I said, oh, they're going to still be kids. Like this was the moment where I went, because she's having this thought, they're going to be in like a time bubble or something where like they're not aged. Slip. Yeah. So, and sure enough, this is where the sort of weird ghost of Airwave or whatever appears and tries to warn her, but his ghost explodes and the boat, of course, explodes. So they end up in the water. Emmy's there too, and they wash ashore this island. The staff isn't working right away. You know, she's kind of begging Cosmo to turn back on, and we see there's someone watching them on a security camera. Courtney noticed that the sand here is kind of notable. The beach is made up of the same sand that's in Our Man's time glass, which
which is weird. That's different.
That's very odd. Which definitely paints the idea that this island is different and special, and maybe you know, not too lost like, but certainly a special island that is hard to find.
Well, and just the idea that it makes this triangle with the island that Oliver was on, right? And so it adds there might be something in that area that is, you know, that, what am I trying? Because with Ollie going back in time with the Seven Soldiers and stuff, like there's something about this neck of the woods that calls the Arrow characters to there too. So I'm wondering if that has anything to do with it.
Yeah, the goofy part of the issue is that these like weird egg robots come out and try and attack them, so they fight them off. They try to
One
kidnap.
of them almost gets Emmy.
Yeah, like it's kind of like closing around her. So this is clearly a kidnapping robot. But Courtney blasts it with the staff, but that doesn't quite save her. Emmy gets dragged into the jungle, and that's when these other sidekicks jump out. We get Wing, an Airwave, and
Cherry Bomb.
Cherry Bomb, yes. I'm glad you remembered that.
Do you want to know why I can remember that?
Why do you remember that?
So the bunny, before she was the bunny and before she was Allie, her wrestling name was Cherry Bomb. So I can tie it to her, and of course I'm going to remember it now.
Because of your unhealthy crush on the bunny, yes.
It's not unhealthy. It's perfectly fine.
I wonder if her big, mean, tough wrestler husband would feel the same.
You know what? He loves the Predator, and I'm sure I could talk to him about movies a lot.
Oh, too. Sure, I'll probably.
I would love to be friends with all three of them, because then Andy's also, or the Butcher, excuse me. You know, he's been in bands and whatever forever, bands that I like. So, yeah, I just think that would be a fun part of the friend group. That's all.
Yeah. So this is called Orphan Island, and Wing says, you know, we're trapped here, but we can escape. And the robot dog's like, you've been saying that for decades. And it's literally been like 80, 70 years or something like that. So, yeah, obviously, this is the story we're reading. So, yes, things are going to change. Courtney's going to be the missing ingredient. Her and Emmy will save them. But, it's a fun enough cliffhanger. It makes sense. We're finding these pulpy sidekick characters on the island. You know, like, interesting stuff. It wasn't a surprise, the ending, that they're all still kids. One, because it just makes more sense from a story purpose that they're not all like these like really old people who can barely move. But also just because the way it's set up in the issue, it was like, because Courtney's had this thought, they are definitely still their age.
Also, it's called The Lost Children, right?
Very true.
I kind of figured that would factor in. I can't remember the little robot dog, and that's something I thought I could remember. So I'm gonna have to get out that guidebook, the JSA one. And where did he come from? Because he seems familiar. But I love seeing him there. Like that was cool. But yeah, I like when John says this type of stuff, because it's gonna play with the history, and I'm sure the Seven Soldiers are gonna tie in somehow with this time this timey-wimey island, you know.
No doubt, no doubt.
As, especially because you have a star character and an arrow character in there with them.
Yeah,
and then you have Wing. So
yeah, I would say this issue is not as strong as the first, mainly because the first one introduced all these elements that were really intriguing and mysterious and all that. This one's a bit more straightforward and has a really sort of simple cliffhanger. It's all solid stuff, and it's enjoyable enough to read. And they're bouncing off of each other is still very good. And he's planting some of these deeper character beats for Emmy, and just the general feel of it is quite good. But it's not as intriguing or as exciting as the first issue, which introduced the whole idea of these missing sidekicks and how it's weird that no one remembers them. Like, all that stuff was so interesting when it got introduced in issue 1. Now, this issue, by default, suffers from typical issue 2 syndrome, which is it's just a lot more straightforward and just getting them to this next point in the story. But it's solid enough at doing that, and the art is still fits the characters and the personality of them really well.
What gets me is Todd Nauck has not lost a step, because I don't know what he was doing in between a lot of these Stargirl stuff, but I went back and read the original Stargirl again, like I think it was last year, and his art is still as crisp as it was back in when Courtney was first introduced, in that Stars and Stripes book. So it's amazing how well that it's kept up. And so it all feels a part of the same piece at some points, because like I can't remember when Wing was introduced. Was that in the spring break special? Was that in earlier stuff in Stars and Stripe? I can't remember, and that's mainly because the art feels all of one piece. So
don't quiz me what was in the spring break special.
I'm not, but I'm just trying to remember when I was first introduced to Wing, and I feel like it's been a while, but it might not have been. I don't know, and I guess that makes his art kind of timeless, which is perfect for this story.
I don't know, but he was introduced alongside a prayer. A Wing and a prayer, for anyone who didn't get that joke.
Yeah.
It was comedy gold. Just trust that it was comedy gold and move on with your lives. All right, what are you rating Stargirl: The Lost Children issue 2?
I'm gonna give this I'll give it a 7.5.
Yeah, I'm just going with a 7. I think it's a bit closer to serviceable versus the first issue, but I was still enjoying it. It was good, but it just didn't hit quite the same intriguing notes that the first issue did. And plus, you got the goofy egg robot things. It's just like, okay, this is just a bit silly, but whatever. Yep. All right, GCPD, The Blue Wall, issue 3, John Ridley writing with Stefano Raphael on the art, and this goes away from the silly side of things. This is all serious talk as we continue the story of our 3 rookie cops, and although this one actually focuses a bit more on Montoya as a character, I would say, than those characters specifically. So this is Montoya's determined to basically prove that Two-Face is behind this recent Fox Tech robbery, and is putting all these resources into it, bunch of surveillance, all that kind of thing. She's like, we're definitely doing this, go after. There's a great moment in the art here where at the end of this conference room scene, she's left on her own, standing in front of a photo of Two-Face, and the art all turns red. When it's all been tinted blue, the entire scene, the colouring changes to this sort of like the demonic presence behind her. But Ortega, one of the cops, the rookie cops, he walks into the police station, and on the pin board is a photo of like a Mexican bandit with his face like put on top of it. And he goes to HR, like the room of cops all laugh at him, and he's like, look, this was kind of a hate crime. Like, can we talk about this? And the guy is sort of understanding, but it's kind of frustrating because he says, look, if you do this, if you actually go through, like, if you want to put this complaint in, we'll put it in. But if you do it, you're going to signal yourself out, and you'll be going to war with the rest of the cops. And that's going to be with you forever, or at least for a long time. And he meets him a couple of times, and he has this traditional scene that they have in this book where he's having like dinner with the other rookie cops, and they kind of agree, like what are you really supposed to do? Ultimately, you're kind of put back into a corner where it's bullshit that they're making this joke and it's offensive and all these other things, but how much shit are you going to get from all of them if you don't just shut up and take it? And he's sort of like confronted with that throughout the issue. And ultimately, when he goes back to the HR officer later, the HR officer looks, if you want to fight it, you're going to war with everyone. But here's what I recommend. Start noting down everything they do that is problematic. And if you ever choose to fight it in the future, have a record of everything. And not just like this one incident. Because one incident is going to be hard to sell. Because the first thing he says, well, was there like a derogatory word like written alongside the photo? And he's like, no, even though it's clearly a racist statement, right? They're saying he's a Mexican bandit. It's still like there has to be more to it to back it up, so on and so on. And even when he goes to Montoya, and you expect Montoya to actually have a bit of sympathy. And this is actually the great writing of the book, actually, is that her reaction to this is she has a quick flashback of like when she was outed as a gay woman by a photograph on the pinboard. She had a very similar thing, but it was even bigger though, because it was out in her personal life. Right. And she basically turns into a hard ass with him and says, look, you have to toughen up. Like, you're never going to make it here if you don't toughen up. So even Montoya, the character that we inherently sympathize with by default, because she's our character that we know from other books, we know from her backstory, she is like poisoned from this experience of going through this system that she's saying you have to toughen up and get over it. Otherwise, you'll never make it. And that's obviously the advice that shouldn't be given, that, you know, she should be sympathetic, she should want to fight for him, but she's too busy dealing with her own shit and has been too beaten down by this system herself. Because, you know, she's not the rookie anymore. She's the veteran. She's the one who's been here for a long time. And she's been beaten down so much that even though she should sympathize with this, she doesn't. She gets tough on him. And maybe that's something she'll come back and regret later in the issue, or not the issue, but the series. But it's a very good, strong character moment, and that she's, like, in terms of the flaw. And then, like, he does start writing this journal at the end of the issue of, like, you know, everything that they're saying or doing to him that crosses a line. So yeah, it's examining another aspect of this stuff. He out of the rookies, he's the one who gets the most this issue. There's a little bit of stuff with Park, where she is offered like this. Basically, she's one of the cops that's now going to stand guard at a crime scene to make sure no one touches anything. Because she thinks she's been given the job of like collecting evidence, and the guy's like, no, you're not collecting evidence. It's the forensics people do that. You're just there to make sure no one else touches it. It's the best. You get paid the same as everyone else, and you never have to do anything except stand there. And that's actually not what she wants. She wants to make a difference. She wants to do something meaningful, and she's been sort of like just jettisoned to this because of what she did before. So yeah, it's still a very frustrating thing to read. Not because the writing's not good, but because it's pointing out all these problems in the system. And all of these things feel very realistic. They feel like you understand the frustration of the characters, and all three of them are just being pigeonholed into these things. The third rookie at this like dinner that he has with his friends reveals that he's actually quitting. The parole officer character's quitting because he blames himself for his parolee getting killed last issue. Also kind of a gut punch. And Montoya basically lets her goldfish die because she's too obsessed with this Two-Face stuff. And even when everyone tells her to let it go, that Two-Face is not involved in this, she is determined that he's still behind it and keeps one officer off the books, like on surveillance. And Two-Face actually lures him into an alleyway and just sort of says, hi, like, what do you want? And then eventually Two-Face talks to Montoya directly and says, stop obsessing over me, I'm not worth it. Like, eventually I'm probably going to do something bad again. There's an editor's note somewhere that says this takes place before what's currently going on in Detective Comics, just to sort of make it fit. But he says, look, I'm not worth this. Like, this obsession you've got over me, like, I'm not worth it. This is like Harvey trying to be a good guy, kinda. So, no, it's all really strong stuff. And the idea that Montoya's let her goldfish die, it's the idea that, like, as commissioner, she's letting, like, everything under her watch, like, crumble because she's too obsessed with the personal thing. So, you know, again, as a series is examining the pressures that these characters are under in this system, and how they're dealing with them and how they're feeling forced by their job to do things they didn't want to. Because it makes a point of mentioning here that they're not even 2 months into this job, and one of them has already, like, been demoted, or kind of, you know, and put into, like, shit detail because of they've been made this scapegoat, and then it turns out they lied, so they've been villainized for it. The other one here is the victim of racial kind of like jokes and slurs and things like that. And then the third one is quitting because he feels responsible for getting someone killed. Like, None of them are having a good time. And even Montoya, who we see as this strong character who's rose up through the system to a place of power as commissioner, is dealing with personal issues and doesn't have the sympathy for those under her that she should have. So, yeah, it's a very bleak book that feels like it's examining all the pressures into these characters. It's a really compelling read. So, no. And probably my favorite thing that I've read from Ridley, I would say. And part of it's because it's very focused, it's got a real clear intent, and it fits into continuity well enough, but it's not really that important to it that it's in continuity. So, that's good stuff. Yeah, solid 8.5. I think this issue is. It's really good. So yeah, cool. All right, Deceased, War of the Undead Gods, issue 5. Tom Taylor writing with Trevor Hairsine and Neil Edwards on the art. So is this the first one, at least in this series, where Hairsine's had another artist helping out?
I think so.
Yeah, I don't remember any other ones, but this issue, big in scope, big concept. You've got the Guardian saying we have to, not help all these planets. We have to protect the power battery. As soon as they reveal that there's Erebus is like the source of this equation that's spreading the virus. Like, shit, protect the power battery, screw all the other planets.
Yeah.
We can't do anything.
Come back. Yeah.
Yeah. Mixie's basically having a pissing contest with Ares in the middle of all this. But the big talking point here is that one of the planets that's been attacked by the Atlantic life equation and the virus is Kilowog's homeworld. And he speeds off, and even though they're ordered not to, the entire Green Lantern Corps pretty much go off to help him, as does Superman and Mixie, bizarrely.
Yeah, much to John's chagrin, right? Because he's just been reunited with his dad, and he's like, you can't go. He's like, well, I have to. So they go to Kilowog's planet. Yeah,
and he tells John, like, he used to be there to protect, like, their home worlds and stuff while he's off helping destroy the virus and stuff, or stop the spread. There's a really dark scene here where Superman, like, saves this family of, like, Kilowog's.
They're from I don't know what they would be.
I don't know how.
Bolivac Vix.
Yeah, I don't know what to call their species.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like a family of Kilowog-like beings. Yes. But then immediately, like, possessed or zombified Supergirl just kills them all with heat vision, like, right after. Yeah. And it's like a really dark moment. It's like
rough go.
Superman's reaching out to, like, the burning bodies, and then he gets hit in the back with, like, we got a Sinestro powered Darkseid, blasting him with the Omega beams. And Mixie's all cocky. Mixie's like, I'm just going to turn Darkseid into like a pot of flowers or something. Not a big deal. And then, of course, he gets infected by the Mother Box, and Mixie himself turns into a giant zombified Mixie, and is basically like the most powerful force in the universe now because he's Mixapitalik. And he flies through the planet, completely destroying Kilowog's home planet.
Yep.
And is on his way to Oa to destroy the power battery, which he does. And then we get a scene where all the random Green Lanterns in space, like Kyle and stuff, all start suffocating in space because their green power goes away. And then the Spectre decides to leave the Quintessence and rebuild the power battery to give them all power back. And that's where we're kind of leaving off at the end of this issue.
With the Spectre deciding to fight the agent of entropy of Mixapitalik.
Yes.
With a sword. And basically telling him to F off.
Yes, and he's holding his new power battery, which is basically single-handedly saving all the Green Lanterns right now, who are all suffocating without it.
Yeah. Well, also with the sword, which is such a cool visual.
Well, also that, but also they mentioned that, some of the Green Lanterns were in space, but some of them were just like in a planet, but they were flying, so they fell to their deaths. They're probably still dead.
Yeah, for sure. The other one that gets me is that John Stewart and Kilowog get crushed by Mixie.
Oh, yeah, they get popped like they're bugs.
And like, but it's such this poignant moment where Kilowog's kind of like, thank you for coming to help me, because they're he leaves. Ganthet tells them that they can't help, but they go anyways, right?
Yeah.
So Kilowog's like, thank you for being with me, brother. He's like, I wouldn't be anywhere else.
Yeah,
They start to do the oath and then die, and it's like, so I talk about like earlier in the show.
Just to paint a visual of this though, because it's actually quite a cool visual, is that Mixie's got them in his hand, which because he's huge, he's like a kaiju now, and he's got them in his hand, but they've got like a green bubble around them, right? But it's sort of starting to crush. But then there's like 5 or something other Green Lanterns who have all like lassoed onto like Mixie's fingers, trying to hold them so that he can't crush them. It doesn't help. He still pops him like a bug, and you see the blood splat, between his hand, which is a great visual. But like it's a really good visuals page. It's obviously it's the death of 2 prominent Green Lantern characters. Yeah. It's quite dark, but it's a very visual splat.
Yeah, and just they're saying the oath together, and then. It's just one of these moments that I was talking about earlier with Tom Taylor just ripping out your heart.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're just like, oh man, why do I care about these fake characters so much? And it's like, well, when they're handled properly, this is what happens. But yeah, this was like complete balls to the wall, crazy. Like he is ramping up big time. After this kind of started as kind of a simple zombie story, when you add the title of War of the Undead Gods. I knew we were gonna get crazier. I did not expect zombified Mixie fighting the Spectre, So
I get it. This is just an example of using all of the toys in the toy box, as in ways that make some amount of sense.
Yeah, for sure.
So power to him. And Hair Signs Art's what it is. Like I don't always love it. I think obviously there's some good action pages here or there. Doesn't always nail the more straight character drama of talking to each other though.
Yeah, his Kilowog also seemed to be missing some of that heft, right?
Yeah.
Like I like a beefy Kilowog. This one's kind of you can tell it's Kilowog, but it's not quite.
Did you like when he shed a tear as he said "Thank you, Poozers" when they all showed up?
Yeah. Like, come on now, how else do you think I'm gonna react to that? Also, I just checked, and he's Bolavaxian. That's what we.
Oh, there you go.
That's what he's dubbed. So, no, man. Yeah, the art's kind of rough in spots, but like again, the zombie Mixie looks unhinged enough just with hair signs, like heavy ink, kind of shadowy aspect. Like when he's pulling at his face, and there's the scratch marks and whatever. Definitely creepy. But like you were saying, the interpersonal, just regular people standing around stuff. Got a lot less to be desired, but it still works. It's serviceable.
Yeah, it's it's like John and Clark like hugging each other goodbye and stuff. The art there in those kind of moments really could be a little bit better, but it's definitely pretty solid by and large. But yeah, this is kind of a weird like comeback because this one feels like it's came a bit later that we've come back to War of the Undead Gods, and it's kind of in this weird place where some time has moved on. But the issues themselves have mostly been pretty good. If not the best of the whole thing, but certainly solid. And like this is another wild issue that has some good big character deaths and just Taylor messing around with all these big concepts that are kind of fun. So, nothing on his Nightwing, but pretty good. Yeah, but certainly. So, what are you rating Deceased War of the Undead Gods issue 5?
I'm gonna give this one a 7.
Yeah, I'd agree with a 7. Yeah, love the concepts and love it's a lot of fun to read, but it doesn't feel like as special as important as perhaps some of his other books do, or even as much as like Deceased Unkillables did, which is still my favorite of the whole Deceased thing.
Yep.
So, cool.
Long live the tree shrimp.
So that'll take us out of the part of the show. We pick our favorite stuff of the week, favorite panel/moment, favorite cover, favorite art, and top 5 books. So Matt, what was your panel/moment of the week?
So I thought about this, and I wanted to pull from Nightwing because the moment where Melinda lets Zuko know she changed her name is really strong. However, there was one moment that made me actually utter WTF, and that was the Boy Thunder is Magog reveal from World's Finest. So that's mine.
Yeah, it's I don't always like to just take the same one, but let's be honest, I can't pretend that any other moment beats that this week.
Yeah, it's up there, It
was just very, very, very good. So absolutely. You got a cover of the week?
So I was looking through some of these, and none of them really strike me, but there was a Nightwing 150 that was Redondo, and it's the regular cover, but it's like a word collage that goes around Nightwing's outline. And there's something about it. I don't know if it's got a movie poster quality or whatever. it really, really made an impression. So that's gonna be mine.
Yeah, I was kind of looking at Nightwing cover. I was looking at the Dan Mora one, which is him and Batgirl, which it felt like a nice callback to, like, there was a Batgirl and Robin one from like last week that this felt like it was like calling back to. There's also a really nice what is it? It's Jay Anacleto variant for Deceased. It's like a Green Lantern. It's like a really painted cover, but it's you can see the skeleton underneath as he's sort of like fading away. Looks really neat. I like that one. And there's some solid covers for some of the other books. Obviously, you got a Mora cover for World's Finest, and there's like 10 variants for Dark Crisis. So
none of them really pop though. A lot of them just they're okay.
Yeah. So I think I am going with the Dan Mora Nightwing. Although the regular cover is good too, with the black, the negative space. Yeah. So, yeah, that's good. All right, art of the week, Matt.
Oof, this one's tough this week because nothing really pops up in my head. They're all good to decent, and I don't want to be a broken record when it comes to Mora, but I'm gonna have to be. If maybe it was all Redondo and Nightwing, that might have stolen, but I'm gonna have to give it to Mora for World's Finest.
Yeah, I think I'm probably. Shout out to Nuck, because I think Stargirl does look quite good.
Yeah, Nuck's close.
Its own style. I think Passarum was pretty solid on Flash, but I kind of agree. If it was all Redondo and Nightwing, it'd probably be Redondo, but it's probably Mora as a result. Yeah, I will say this is not to like throw any of the art this week under the bus, but I would say there's no like even like Mora's issue of World's Finest is obviously very good, but I don't think it's his best issue art wise.
No, and that's what I said. I don't want to sound like a broken record, just picking more, but Knock is a close second, and then everything else is just kind of good.
Honestly, I think if Redondo had done the whole Nightwing, it would easily be Redondo because some of the pages he did do were fantastic. But okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, in that case, it's top 5 books time. So what you got, Matt?
Number 1 is Nightwing. Number 2 is World's Finest. Number 3 is Stargirl. Number 4 is Flash, and number 5 is Batman versus Robin.
I can't remember what I rated anything, which usually helps us. Number 1 is Nightwing. Number 2 is World's Finest. Number 3... number 3 is Flash. Number 4, Stargirl. Number 5, Batman v Robin. Oh wait, no. I need Blue Wall in here. So on.
Yeah, you like that one a lot.
Yeah, Blue
that should
Wall,
be in like your 3rd rate, right?
Yeah, Blue Wall is probably number 3. So sorry, Batman v Robin, you got bumped.
Yeah.
So what 1 is Nightwing, 2 is World's Finest, 3 is Blue Wall, 4 is Flash, 5 is Stargirl. There you go.
All right.
Easy peasy. I will tell you what's coming next week from DC Comics for the New Year's edition of the show. Because by the time you get it, it'll be New Year's, I guess. Yeah. We'll be recording it, I think, on New Year's Eve, so it'll still be 2022 for us. But coming next week, we have Detective Comics 1067, Action Comics 1050. Oh, that's a biggie. Nice House in the Lake issue 12, DC versus Vampires issue 12. So 2 final issues there. Batman Beyond the White Knight issue 7, Harley Quinn 25, which is a slightly oversized issue if you're buying that. Riddler Year 1 issue 2, Tim Drake Robin issue 4, Punchline The Gotham Game issue 3, DC Horror presents Sergeant Rock versus the Army of the Dead issue 4, Batman Gotham Knights Gilded City issue 3, Blue Beetle Graduation Day issue 2, Justice League Young Justice Targets I should say issue 6, Wonder Woman Historia The Amazons issue 3, and then we got John Stewart Emerald Knight issue 1. So that's something we're going to look at?
That's Thorn. I feel like that's him wrapping up. Okay. That's not the new stuff yet.
That's their they're wrapping up some of their loose ends. That's what that is. Yeah, okay. So we won't be looking at that, but it's out for anyone who wants it. Tales from Earth 6, A Celebration of Stan Lee issue 1. There you go. DC Mech issue 6, The Sandman Universe presents The Dead Boy Detectives issue 1. and Batman: The Audio Adventures issue 4. They're shipping a lot of books for next
New
week.
Year's.
Yeah,
they are
wild.
So,
and all the comic shops will have all these already because they always do the 2 weeks at the end of the year together. So
at least the following week's pretty quiet. So that's nice. So
yeah, because we'll have to fit in our annual episode somewhere around here. So that is good to know. But yeah, that's what's coming next week from DC Comics. So plenty of interesting things to talk about. So have a nice Christmas, everyone. You know, you may not even listen to this till after you've had Christmas, depending on what your schedule's like, which is fair enough. But have a nice Christmas. Thank you for supporting the show throughout 2022. And of course, you can continue to support the show over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. And you can support the show by liking, subscribing, dinging the bell for notifications, and rating the podcast on your podcast app and all that stuff. But that is pretty much it. I'll just thank our Patreon producers. So thank you very much to Tyler Hess, Sandy Palacios, David Sharp, Board Now, Christopher Moy, David Brown, Al Treisman, and Alison M. Fordyce. They are some of our higher tiered patrons. So thank you once again, and we'll see you soon. Technically, it'll be the new year for you guys. It won't be for us, but we'll see you in 2023, I guess. Just
sounds like a threat almost.
We'll see you next year. Yes. Sorry, guys. There won't be any more episodes until next year.
Yeah. I would expect that joke from Tim, not from you.
Nah, I don't know. I'm hungry, Matt.
We'll get out of here. I'm hungry too, so we'll get out of here soon.
My comedy standards have dropped in hunger. What can I say?
Gotcha.
But anyway, that's the show. Thank you very much for joining us. We always appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics and never get lost in the Speed Force.